the lantern maker of Duskfall Village, a calming bedtime story for deep sleep. Welcome to Duskfall Village. There is a place, soft and gentle, where the light never quite turns to darkness. A place where the evening comes early and stays late, where the sky holds itself in that tender moment between day and night, forever suspended in the colors of sunset and twilight. This place is called Duskfall Village, and it rests in a valley cupped by low, rolling hills that seem to breathe with the rhythm of the wind. The village is small, no more than a scattering of cottages and workshops, each one built from honey-colored stone that seems to hold the warmth of the sun even after night has fallen. The roofs are gentle slopes of weathered slate, some covered with soft moss that glows faintly silver in the perpetual twilight. Smoke rises from chimneys in thin, lazy spirals, carrying with it the scent of applewood and cinnamon, of bread baking slowly, of herbs drying in warm kitchens. The streets of Duskfall Village are narrow and winding, paved with smooth river stones that have been worn down by countless footsteps over countless years. These stones are cool to the touch, even on the warmest evenings, and they shine softly in the lantern light that bathes the village in its gentle glow. There are no harsh edges here, no sharp corners or sudden drops. Everything curves and flows, inviting you to slow your pace, to breathe deeply, to let your shoulders drop and your mind settle. At the heart of the village stands an ancient oak tree, its trunk so wide that 5 people standing with arms outstretched could not encircle it. The tree's branches spread out like protective arms over the village square, and from these branches hang dozens and dozens of lanterns. Each lantern is unique, crafted by hand, glowing with a soft, steady light that casts dancing shadows on the cobblestones below. The lanterns sway gently in the breeze, and when they move, they chime with the softest sound, like distant bells heard across water, like wind through grass, like the first notes of a lullaby. The air in Duskfall Village is always gentle, always kind. It carries the scent of lavender from the gardens that line every path, and the sweet, clean smell of the lake that borders the village to the east. This lake is perfectly still, a mirror of silver and pearl that reflects the sky and the lantern lights, doubling their beauty, multiplying their peace. Sometimes, when the evening is especially quiet, you can hear the soft lap of water against the shore, a rhythm as steady and comforting as a heartbeat, as breathing as sleep itself. The people of Duskfall Village move through their days with an unhurried grace. They greet each other softly, with gentle smiles and warm words. Children play quiet games in the gardens, their laughter like the tinkling of small bells. Elders sit on benches carved from driftwood, watching the sky, watching the lanterns, watching the world turn slowly, peacefully toward rest. No one hurries here. No one rushes. Time itself seems to have agreed to move more slowly, to give everyone space to breathe, to be, to simply exist in this moment, and this moment, and this one too. And in this village, in a cottage near the edge of the lake, lives the lantern maker. His cottage is perhaps the coziest in all of Duskfall, built from the same honey-colored stone but smaller, more intimate, with ivy climbing its walls and a garden full of night-blooming flowers that release their perfume into the evening air. The windows of the cottage glow with warm, amber light, and through them, you can sometimes see the flicker of candle flames, the shadow of the lantern maker moving about his work, the gentle dance of light and shadow that speaks of craft, of care, of love poured into every small creation. The lantern maker is old, though no one quite knows how old. His face is lined with the gentle creases of many years of smiling, many years of kind work, many years of watching the world with patient, peaceful eyes. His hair is white as morning mist, soft and fine, and he wears it long, tied back with a simple ribbon. His hands are weathered but steady, marked by years of careful labor, of shaping metal and paper and glass into vessels of light. When he walks, he moves slowly, deliberately, as though each step is a meditation, each breath a prayer of gratitude for this life, this village, this gentle evening that never quite ends. Tonight, as every night, the lantern maker will prepare the evening lanterns. He will choose the colors and the shapes, the light and the shadows. He will infuse them with the quiet magic that lives in Duskfall Village, the magic that brings peace to troubled hearts, that guides wanderers home, that reminds everyone who sees them that the world, despite everything, is still beautiful, still kind, still worth the quiet celebration of simply being alive. The evening in Duskfall village is beginning, though it is an evening that knows no rush toward darkness. The sky holds its colors, deep purple and soft rose, amber and gold and the palest blue, and the first stars appear, not bright and piercing but gentle and dim, like distant candles lit in an enormous, quiet room. The air grows just slightly cooler, just enough to make you want to wrap yourself in something soft, to find a comfortable place to sit, to let your eyes rest on the beauty all around. And in his cottage by the lake, the lantern maker is beginning his work. The day's tasks are done, the simple tasks of living, the cup of tea, the quiet breakfast, the tending of his garden, the sweeping of his doorstep. Now comes the work he loves most, the work that fills his heart with a contentment so deep and so complete that it feels like peace itself has taken up residence in his chest, warm and glowing and steady. You are welcome here in Duskfall village. You are welcome to stay as long as you like, to walk these gentle streets, to breathe this peaceful air, to watch the lanterns glow and sway and fill the evening with their soft, steady light. There is no hurry here. There is no need to be anywhere other than exactly where you are. The village will hold you gently. The evening will embrace you. And the lantern maker, with his kind eyes and his steady hands, will light the way toward rest, toward peace, toward the deep and gentle sleep that waits at the end of all our wandering, at the end of every long day, at the end of every path that leads at last toward home. The lantern maker's quiet morning. The lantern maker wakes each day to the soft glow of perpetual twilight filtering through the curtains of his bedroom window. These curtains are made of cloth dyed the color of morning sky, a pale blue that seems to hold light within its very threads. They move gently in the breeze that comes through the window, which he always leaves open just a hand's width, enough to let in the fresh air that smells of lake water and night-blooming jasmine. His bed is simple but deeply comfortable, a sturdy wooden frame that has held him through countless nights of peaceful sleep. The mattress is stuffed with wool and dried lavender, and the sheets are soft from years of washing in the lake water, dried on lines in the garden where they absorb the scent of herbs and flowers. The quilt that covers him was made by the village weaver, pieced together from fabrics in shades of cream and dove gray and the palest gold, each square stitched with patterns of leaves and stars and lanterns, a map of the lantern maker's life and work rendered in thread and cloth. He rises slowly, without alarm or urgency. There is no need to rush in Duskfall village. The morning, if it can be called morning in a place of perpetual twilight, will wait for him. The day will unfold at its own gentle pace. He sits on the edge of the bed for a moment, letting his feet find the cool wooden floor, feeling the slight creak of the boards beneath him, a sound as familiar and comforting as his own breathing. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the clean, sweet air, and then releases it slowly, letting any tension, any fragment of dream, drift away like smoke. The lantern maker's morning routine is a ritual of quietness, of small, intentional actions performed with care. He moves to the wash basin in the corner of his bedroom, a simple bowl of white ceramic resting on a wooden stand. The water in the pitcher beside it is cool and clear, drawn from the well in his garden the evening before. He pours it slowly, watching the way it catches the light, the way it fills the bowl with a soft, musical sound. He washes his face, his hands, the back of his neck, and the coolness is refreshing, waking him gently, bringing him fully into the moment. He dresses in clothes that are comfortable and well-worn, trousers of soft brown wool, and a shirt of undyed linen that has faded to the color of cream. Over this, he pulls a vest of deep indigo, the pockets of which hold the small tools of his trade, a piece of chalk, a measuring string, a tiny vial of oil for squeaking hinges and stiff joints. His clothes smell faintly of wood smoke and beeswax, of the herbs that hang drying in his workshop, of the simple, clean scent of a life lived close to the earth and the elements. From the bedroom, he makes his way down the narrow stairs to the main room of the cottage. The stairs are steep and worn smooth by years of climbing and descending, and he places his hand on the wall as he goes, feeling the cool stone beneath his palm. The cottage is small but perfectly arranged, every object in its proper place, every corner serving its purpose. The main room serves as kitchen, sitting room, and passage to the workshop beyond. The ceiling is low and beamed with dark wood, and from the beams hang bundles of dried herbs, chamomile and peppermint, rosemary and thyme, their leaves rustling softly whenever someone passes beneath them. The kitchen occupies one corner of the room, centered around a small iron stove that radiates a gentle warmth. The lantern maker opens the stove door and checks the embers from the night before. They glow softly, still alive, and he adds a few small pieces of kindling, then a log of apple wood that will burn slow and sweet. The fire catches and grows, not blazing but settling into a steady, comfortable burn that fills the room with warmth and the lovely scent of fruit wood turning to flame. He fills a copper kettle with water from the jug by the sink and sets it on the stove to heat. While he waits, he prepares his breakfast, a simple meal that is the same almost every day and which he loves for its familiarity, its predictability, its place in the rhythm of his life. He slices bread from a loaf baked by the village baker 3 days ago, the crust still holding its satisfying firmness, the interior soft and fragrant. He spreads the bread with butter kept cool in a ceramic crock, then drizzles it with honey from the beekeeper who lives on the other side of the village, honey that tastes of clover and wildflowers and summer afternoons that stretch on forever. The kettle begins to whisper, then to sing its soft, rising song. He removes it from the heat just as it reaches a boil, then pours the water over tea leaves in a clay pot, leaves of chamomile and lemon balm, herbs that calm and center, that prepare the spirit for the work ahead. He covers the pot with a quilted cozy and lets it steep while he carries his plate of bread and honey to the table by the window. This window looks out over his garden, and beyond it, to the lake. The view is one he never tires of, one that changes subtly with the shifts of light and weather, with the seasons that touch even Duskfall village with their gentle hands. The garden is full of the plants he needs for his work, lavender for peace, roses for love, sage for wisdom, mint for clarity. The flowers glow softly in the twilight, and sometimes small moths visit them, their wings barely visible, like fragments of moonlight given life and motion. Beyond the garden, the lake stretches out, smooth and silver, its surface broken only occasionally by the ripple of a fish rising to feed on insects, or the passage of a swan gliding slowly from one side to the other. The swans of Duskfall Lake are pure white, and they move with a grace that seems almost unreal, as though they are not birds at all but spirits, manifestations of peace and beauty given form. The lantern maker eats his breakfast slowly, savoring each bite, each sip of tea. The honey is sweet on his tongue, the bread satisfying, the tea warm and soothing as it travels down his throat and into his chest, spreading its gentle warmth outward through his body. He chews thoroughly, breathes between bites, allows himself to be fully present for this simple act of nourishment. There is no hurry. There is no place he needs to be but here, in this moment, in this gentle morning that is not quite morning, in this cottage that is home in every sense of the word. When he has finished eating, he washes his dishes in a basin of warm water, dries them with a cloth of soft cotton, and returns them to their places on the shelf. He pours himself a second cup of tea, and carries it with him as he moves through the cottage, checking on things, making sure all is well. He waters the herbs that grow in pots on the windowsills, basil and oregano, thyme and parsley, each plant responding to his attention by releasing a little of its fragrance into the air. He pauses by the shelf where he keeps his books, running his fingers along their spines. They are old books, bound in leather and cloth, their pages yellowed and soft. Some are about the art of lantern making, filled with diagrams and instructions, recipes for different types of light. Others are books of poetry, of philosophy, of stories from faraway places. He doesn't open them this morning. There will be time for reading later, in the quiet of the afternoon, but he likes to acknowledge them, to remember that they are there, waiting for him, full of wisdom and beauty and the voices of those who have lived before. The cottage is warm now, filled with the smell of tea and herbs, of wood smoke and the faint sweetness of honey. The lantern maker stands in the center of the main room, his empty teacup in his hand, and he takes a moment simply to be still, to feel the quiet, to let the peace of his home settle into his bones. This is his life, simple, gentle, filled with small beauties and quiet satisfactions. This is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything. And now, as the morning begins to deepen toward what might be called day, though the light remains soft and amber, he turns toward the door that leads to his workshop. The door is made of oak, carved with simple patterns of leaves and flames, and the handle is smooth from years of his hand grasping it, opening it, passing through. Beyond this door is the place where the magic happens, where glass and metal and paper are transformed into vessels of light, into lanterns that carry peace and hope and beauty into the world. He places his hand on the door handle, feels its familiar weight and shape, and then, slowly, gently, he opens the door and steps through into the heart of his work, into the place where his life's purpose unfolds, one lantern at a time, one soft glow at a time, one small act of beauty offered to the world with love. Inside the lantern workshop. The workshop is a room that lives in a state of gentle disarray, organized chaos that makes sense only to the lantern maker himself, where every object has its place even if that place appears, to an outside eye, to be wherever it was last set down. The room is larger than one might expect from seeing the cottage from outside, stretching back deep into the building, with a high ceiling supported by exposed beams from which hang more lanterns. These ones finished, waiting to be delivered, or simply kept because they are favorites, because they cast the light in a way that pleases the eye and soothes the heart. The light in the workshop comes from multiple sources. The main window faces east, though in Duskfall village, east and west are more suggestions than absolutes, directions that the sun once followed, but that now exist more as memory than reality. Through this window comes the ambient glow of the eternal twilight, soft and diffuse, the color of lavender honey, of pearl, of the inside of certain shells found on faraway beaches. This natural light is supplemented by candles placed throughout the room, thick pillar candles that burn with steady, unwavering flames, and smaller votive candles in holders of colored glass that cast pools of amber and rose and pale green light onto the workbenches and floors. The walls of the workshop are lined with shelves, and these shelves hold the raw materials of the lantern maker's craft. There are spools of wire in different gauges, copper and brass and silver, some new and bright, others tarnished to a soft, antique patina that he prefers for certain designs. There are sheets of metal waiting to be cut and shaped, rolls of paper both thick and thin, some plain and some printed with delicate patterns of stars and moons, of flowering vines and geometric designs. There are boxes of glass pieces, some clear, some colored, some textured in ways that scatter light into interesting patterns. There are jars of beads and crystals, of small bells that chime when the lanterns move, of decorative elements collected over years of work and travel and trade. One entire wall is devoted to paints and dyes, to brushes and mixing palettes, to the means of adding color to the lanterns. The paints are made from natural pigments ground from minerals and plants, ochre from iron-rich earth, blue from ground lapis and woad, red from madder root and cinnabar. The dyes smell of earth and metal, of plants and thyme, and they sit in their jars like little pools of captured light, waiting to be released onto paper and cloth and glass. The centerpiece of the workshop is the main workbench, a massive slab of oak that has been worn smooth by years of use. Its surface is marked with burns from hot wax, stains from spilled dye, shallow grooves from tools that have slipped. These marks are not flaws but history, the record of every lantern that has been born on this bench, every hour spent in quiet concentration, every moment of the lantern maker's life devoted to his craft. The bench is scattered with the current projects, half-finished frames of wire, pieces of paper cut but not yet assembled, small pots of glue and paste, scissors and pliers and files and hammers, each tool shaped by use into an extension of the lantern maker's hands. Near the workbench stands the brazier, a wide bowl of hammered copper that sits atop a tripod of iron. This is where he melts wax for sealing seams, where he heats metal to make it pliable, where he sometimes simply lets a small fire burn for warmth and for the comfort of watching flames dance and flicker. The brazier is cold now, filled with white ash from yesterday's work, but he will light it later, when the time comes for the tasks that require heat and transformation. In the corner of the workshop, almost hidden behind a curtain of hanging beads, is the lantern maker's most precious tool, the glass kiln. It is a small, squat structure built of firebrick and clay, with a door that opens to reveal a chamber lined with glowing coals. This is where he fires the glass pieces for his most special lanterns, where he melts sand and minerals into new colors, new textures, where he works the ancient magic of transforming earth into light-bearing vessels. The kiln radiates a gentle warmth even when not in use, as though it remembers every fire that has burned within it, as though it holds that heat in reserve, ready to offer it when needed. The floor of the workshop is wooden, the boards wide and dark with age, scattered with rugs woven in patterns of geometric beauty. These rugs serve both practical and aesthetic purposes. They cushion the lantern maker's feet during the long hours of standing at his bench. They muffle sound, and they add warmth and color to the space. They are made from wool dyed with the same natural pigments he uses in his paints, in shades of rust and gold, of deep blue and soft green. Against another wall stands a tall cabinet with many small drawers, each one labeled in the lantern maker's careful handwriting. These drawers contain the small, precious things, rare crystals that refract light in unusual ways, fragments of mirror glass, tiny hinges and clasps, loops of chain in various weights, buttons and charms and small found objects that might someday be incorporated into a lantern design. Opening these drawers is like opening treasure chests, each one revealing its glittering, mysterious contents, each one holding possibility. The air in the workshop is thick with scent, the smell of beeswax and metal, of paper and glue, of herbs hanging to dry in the rafters, of candle smoke and the mineral tang of paints and dyes. These smells mingle into something unique, something that belongs only to this space, only to this work. It is the smell of creation, of craft, of hours spent in absorption so complete that time becomes meaningless, that the world outside fades to nothing, that all that exists is the work itself and the quiet satisfaction of making something beautiful, something useful, something that will bring light into darkness. The lantern maker enters his workshop and pauses just inside the door, as he does every time, letting his eyes adjust to the light, letting his mind shift from the domestic space of the cottage into the creative space of the workshop. It is a transition he honors, a threshold he crosses with awareness and intention. He takes a deep breath, drawing in the familiar scents, feeling the energy of the space settle around him like a cloak, like an embrace from an old friend. He moves to his workbench and lights a stick of incense, something he does at the beginning of each work session. The incense is made from sandalwood and frankincense, mixed with dried lavender and a touch of vanilla. The smoke rises in a thin, curling line, and he watches it for a moment, sees the way it moves through the air, lazy and meandering, following currents invisible to the eye but present nonetheless. The smoke is like a visible breath, a reminder to breathe, to stay present, to let the work flow through him rather than forcing it. He surveys the projects currently in progress. There is a lantern for the baker, a sturdy design of copper and amber glass that will hang in the bakery window. There is a smaller lantern for a child's room, painted with stars and crescent moons, meant to cast gentle shadows that will comfort rather than frighten. There is a set of tiny lanterns, no bigger than his fist, that will be strung together and hung in the garden of the village elder, where they will light the path and keep away insects with their subtle scent of citronella. But these projects can wait. Tonight is special. Tonight he will create the evening lanterns, the ones that mark the deepening of dusk into night, that guide the village through the gentle hours of darkness. These lanterns are different from his usual work. They are larger, more elaborate, infused with intention and the quiet magic that comes from years of practice, from a deep understanding of light and shadow, from a love of beauty that goes beyond mere aesthetics into something approaching the sacred. The lantern maker stands at his bench, his hands resting on the worn wood, and he closes his eyes. He breathes slowly, deeply, letting his mind quiet, letting thoughts drift away like leaves on a stream. He is centering himself, preparing himself, opening himself to the inspiration that will guide his hands in the work ahead. This is a meditation, a prayer without words, an offering of attention and care to the task that awaits. When he opens his eyes, they are clear and calm, ready to see what needs to be seen, ready to create what needs to be created. He reaches for his tools, and his hands know what to do, moving with the confidence of long practice, with the sureness that comes from a lifetime devoted to a single craft, performed with love, performed with presence, performed again and again until the doing becomes as natural as breathing, as effortless as light itself. Choosing the evening lanterns. The lantern maker stands before the tall shelf where completed lanterns rest, waiting for their moment to shine. This shelf spans nearly the entire length of one wall, rising from floor to ceiling, divided into cubbies and compartments of various sizes. Each lantern has its own space, cushioned with soft cloth to protect the delicate glass and paper, arranged with care so that nothing touches, nothing crowds. In the gentle, diffused light of the workshop, the lanterns seem to glow even without being lit, as though they have absorbed light from their surroundings and now reflect it back in subtle, quiet ways. The metal frames catch the candlelight, creating small points of brightness. The colored glass panels shimmer with hints of their true colors, ruby red and sapphire blue, emerald green, and topaz gold. The paper lanterns seem to breathe, their surfaces moving almost imperceptibly in the small currents of air that circulate through the workshop. Tonight, he will need 7 lanterns. 7 is the traditional number for the evening ceremony, a number that feels right in ways that go beyond reason, beyond explanation. 7 like the days of the week that once existed in the world beyond Duskfall. 7 like the colors of the rainbow that sometimes appears over the lake when the light hits the mist just so. 7 like the number of breaths it takes to truly settle, to truly arrive in the present moment. He approaches the shelf slowly, letting his eyes move across the lanterns, not thinking but feeling, allowing his intuition to guide him toward the ones that want to be chosen tonight. This is always how he makes such decisions, not with his mind but with something deeper, something that knows without knowing how it knows, that understands in a language older than words. The first lantern calls to him from the second shelf, slightly to the left. It is a hanging lantern teardrop-shaped, made from panels of pale blue glass separated by copper wire that has oxidized to a soft turquoise green. The glass is not quite transparent, but not quite opaque either. Translucent, like the sky at the moment between day and night, like water in a deep pool where the bottom is visible but mysterious. Inside this lantern, he will place a candle scented with chamomile, and the light that shines through will be the color of peace, of calm, of deep waters where nothing disturbs the silence. He reaches for it, his hands cupping the lantern gently, feeling its weight, its balance, the slight roughness of the soldered seams where metal meets glass. He brings it down and places it carefully on a padded tray at the end of his workbench. The lantern sits there, waiting, the first of 7, the beginning of the constellation of lights that will grace the village this evening. The second lantern is different in every way. Where the first is cool and watery, this one is warm and grounded. It is a square lantern, its frame made from dark iron wrought into the shapes of tree branches, and its panels are made from paper that has been painted a deep, rich amber, the color of honey held up to sunlight, the color of autumn leaves, of warmth and harvest and the comfort of home. This lantern will hold a candle scented with cinnamon and clove, and its light will be the light of hearth fires, of kitchens in the evening, of all the places where people gather to feel safe, to feel held, to feel loved. The third lantern is small and delicate, no larger than an apple. It hangs from a thin silver chain, and its body is made from hundreds of tiny glass beads woven together with wire, so fine it is barely visible. The beads are clear crystal, and they catch light and throw it in all directions, creating tiny rainbows that dance across the workshop walls. This lantern is meant to hang at eye level, to be looked at closely, to reward attention with its intricate beauty. Inside, he will place the smallest candle, just a tea light, but its flame will be multiplied by the crystal beads into 100 tiny flames, 1,000 small sparks of light that speak of joy, of celebration, of the simple delight of seeing something beautiful. The fourth lantern returns to size and presence. It is a standing lantern, meant to rest on the ground or on a low table, cylindrical in shape with a wide, stable base. Its panels are made from glass that has been textured in the kiln, pressed while still hot with patterns that resemble flowing water, gentle waves, the surface of the lake when a breeze passes over it. The glass is tinted the palest green, almost white, like sea foam, like the first shoots of spring plants pushing through snow. The metal frame is brass, polished to a soft shine. This lantern will hold a larger candle, something that will burn for hours, and its light will be steady, reliable, a constant presence that says, "I am here, I will not falter, you can depend on me." For the fifth lantern, he chooses one that is unusual, experimental, one of his more recent creations. It is spherical, made entirely of glass blown into a perfect round and then, while still hot, pierced with hundreds of tiny holes arranged in spirals. The glass itself is a deep purple, the color of plums, of night sky just before the stars become visible. When lit, this lantern will cast patterns of light and shadow that swirl across surfaces, creating a sense of gentle motion, of stars wheeling overhead, of the vast, slow turning of the cosmos. The candle for this one will be unscented, allowing the play of light to be the primary experience, undistracted by fragrance. The sixth lantern is one of the oldest in his collection, one of the first he ever made when he came to Duskfall village many years ago. It is simple in design, a hexagonal frame of silver-toned metal, 6 panels of thin rice paper, each one painted with a different wildflower found in the meadows beyond the village. The paintings are delicate, done with brushes that have only a few hairs, and they show violet and poppy, daisy and cornflower, lavender and wild rose. The paper has yellowed slightly with age, giving the lantern a warmth that speaks of time, of continuity, of things that endure. This lantern will hold a candle scented with a mixture of the very flowers painted on its sides, and its light will be a gentle reminder of the natural world, of growth and bloom, and the eternal return of beauty. For the seventh and final lantern, he reaches toward the top shelf, toward a lantern that is rarely used because it is so precious, so imbued with meaning. This lantern is made from white glass, so pure it seems to glow from within even when unlit. Its shape is that of a lotus flower in partial bloom, petals curving upward and outward, each petal a separate piece of glass, each one fitted together with such precision that the seams are nearly invisible. The metalwork is gold wire, fine as hair, wrapped around the edges of each petal to hold them in place. This is the lantern of aspiration, of reaching toward light, of the soul's journey toward peace and understanding. Inside, he will place a candle made from the purest beeswax, unscented and perfect, and its flame will burn clean and bright, a flame that represents the highest intentions, the deepest hopes, the quiet prayer for peace that lives in every heart. He brings down each lantern with care, with reverence, and arranges them on the tray. 7 lanterns, 7 lights, 7 ways of being in the world, 7 gifts offered to the village, and to anyone who passes by and sees them glowing in the deepening evening. He stands back and looks at them together, this gathering of light vessels, and he feels a deep satisfaction, a sense of rightness. These are the ones. These are tonight's lanterns. These will carry the light forward into the gentle darkness, and they will do their work, which is simply to shine, to be beautiful, to remind everyone who sees them that there is still light in the world, that it is worth tending, worth protecting, worth celebrating with quiet joy. He places his hands together, a gesture of gratitude, of acknowledgement. The choosing is done. Now comes the preparation, the ritual of making ready, the careful attention to detail that will ensure each lantern burns perfectly, each flame dances just so, each glow reaches out into the evening with exactly the right quality of light. He takes a breath, centers himself once more, and turns toward the next phase of his work, the next step in the gentle, unhurried unfolding of the evening's ceremony. Preparing the magical ingredients. The lantern maker moves to a different part of the workshop, to the area where he stores what he privately thinks of as the magical ingredients. Though if asked, he would say there is no magic, only care, only intention, only the gathered wisdom of natural things working together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. Still, the word magic whispers in his mind sometimes, because how else to describe the way certain combinations of scent and light can transform mood, can ease worry, can guide the mind toward rest. This section of the workshop is quieter somehow, more intimate. It is organized around a smaller work table, scarred and stained like the main bench, but more purposeful in its arrangement. Everything here is about essence, about the concentrated power of plants and minerals, about the subtle forces that work on the senses, and through the senses on the spirit. Shelves above the table hold rows of glass jars, each one carefully labeled in the lantern maker's elegant handwriting. The jars contain dried herbs and flowers, gathered from the village gardens and the meadows beyond, each one harvested at the proper time, dried slowly in the shade to preserve both color and potency. There is lavender, its gray-green buds still holding their purple tinge, their scent calming and clean. There is rose, petals dried to a deep crimson, smelling of sweetness and memory. There is chamomile, tiny flowers like miniature daisies, their scent apple-like and soothing. There is lemon balm and bee balm, mint and melissa, sage and rosemary, each plant carrying its own particular medicine, its own gift to offer those who know how to receive it. Next to the dried herbs are smaller bottles containing essential oils, thick liquids in shades of gold and amber, green and clear. These oils are concentrated plant essences, distilled through patient processes that the lantern maker learned from the village herbalist, methods that involve steam and coils of copper tubing, careful temperature control, and patience, always patience, the most important ingredient in any work worth doing. He runs his fingers along the bottles, reading the labels even though he knows them by heart. Lavender oil, extracted from flowers gathered at the height of summer. Rose otto, so precious that a single drop contains the essence of dozens of petals. Sandalwood, earthy and grounding. Bergamot, bright and lifting. Frankincense, ancient and sacred, smelling of temples and devotion. Vanilla, sweet and comforting as a mother's embrace. Each oil has its purpose, its personality, its particular way of speaking to the human nervous system, of encouraging it toward rest, toward peace, toward the gentle letting go that precedes sleep. Below the oils, in a drawer lined with velvet, rest the candles themselves. The lantern maker makes these with his own hands, though the actual crafting happens in a different season, during what might be called winter in other places, though in Duskfall village the seasons are more suggestions than declarations. The candles are made from beeswax gathered from the village beekeeper, wax that is golden and pure, that smells faintly of honey and propolis, that burns clean and bright without smoke or soot. He shapes the candles himself, using molds of various sizes, or sometimes rolling the soft wax around wicks, forming tapers by hand, feeling the warmth of the wax between his palms, feeling it respond to his touch, becoming what he asks it to become. Some candles are pillars, thick and sturdy. Others are thin tapers, elegant and refined. Still others are small votives, meant to burn for just a few hours, perfect for lanterns that need only a brief illumination. But the candles stored here are special. These are the candles infused with intention, blended with oils and ground herbs, created specifically for the evening lanterns. He opens the drawer and looks at them, selecting the 7 he will need, 1 for each lantern. Each candle is wrapped in soft cloth to protect it, and as he unwraps them, the scents begin to release into the air, mingling together in a harmonious bouquet that is complex but never overwhelming, soothing but never cloying. The first candle is pale blue, tinted with a touch of indigo powder mixed into the wax before it cooled. This candle is scented with chamomile and lavender, with a hint of vanilla for warmth. It is the candle of calm waters, of quiet minds, of the peaceful space that exists when worry releases its grip. He sets it beside the blue glass lantern, a perfect pairing. The second candle is deep amber in color, almost orange, tinted with turmeric and annatto. Its scent is warming, cinnamon and clove, with undertones of sweet orange and a touch of cardamom. This is the candle of hearth and home, of safety and comfort, of the place where you are always welcome, always held. It will live in the amber paper lantern, and together they will create a glow like sunset, like firelight, like love made visible. The third candle is barely tinted, almost white, but when held to the light it reveals the faintest blush of pink. It is small, meant for the crystal bead lantern, and its scent is delicate, rose and narrowly, with a whisper of jasmine. This is the candle of joy, of small delights, of the beauty that exists in details, in moments, in the tiny perfections that surround us when we slow down enough to notice them. The fourth candle is pale green, colored with chlorophyll extracted from spring grass, and its scent is fresh and clean, eucalyptus and mint, with a base note of pine. This is the candle of renewal, of breath, of the constant exchange between body and world, the reminder that air is always available, that each breath brings new life, new possibility. It will burn in the textured glass lantern, and its light will ripple like wind across water. The fifth candle is deep purple, almost black in certain lights, colored with elderberry and indigo. Its scent is mysterious, complex, myrrh and patchouli, with a touch of black pepper for interest. This is the candle of the night sky, of the vast darkness that is not empty but full, teeming with stars and planets and the slow dance of celestial bodies. Unscented was his first thought, but this candle is better. It adds depth, dimension, a sense that darkness itself has texture and richness. The sixth candle is the color of old paper, of parchment, slightly yellowed and soft. Its scent is a garden in full bloom, a blend of all the wildflowers painted on the lantern's panels, carefully balanced so that no single scent dominates. Violet and poppy, daisy and cornflower, lavender and wild rose, all present, all in harmony. This is the candle of nature, of the earth's generous beauty, of the way wild things grow without anyone tending them, how beauty appears simply because beauty is the world's nature. The seventh candle is pure white, untinted, made from the finest beeswax. But it is not unscented. Instead, it carries the scent of beeswax itself, pure and simple, the smell of hives and honey, of the industrious work of thousands of bees gathering nectar from millions of flowers, transforming it into sweetness, into light. This is the candle of essence, of purity, of the direct path, the simple truth that needs no embellishment. It will burn in the lotus lantern, and together they will be a prayer, a meditation, a still point of perfect clarity. The lantern maker arranges the candles beside their corresponding lanterns, and now the tray holds 14 objects, 7 lanterns and 7 candles, a complete set, everything needed for the evening ceremony. But the preparation is not yet complete. Each candle must be fitted properly to its lantern, must be secured so it will not tip or fall, must be positioned so that the flame will be protected from drafts while still receiving enough air to burn cleanly. He moves to another drawer and removes a collection of small brass holders, cups and spikes and bases, each designed to hold candles of different sizes. He selects the appropriate holder for each candle, testing the fit, making sure everything is secure. The pillar candles rest in shallow cups. The tapers fit into spikes. The votives sit in small glass containers that will catch any drips of wax, that will also magnify and reflect the candlelight, making it brighter, stronger, more effective. One by one, he installs each candle in its lantern. This is precise work, requiring steady hands and good light, and he bends close to each lantern, his face illuminated by the workshop's ambient glow, his expression concentrated but peaceful. There is no frustration in this work, no impatience. If something doesn't fit quite right, he adjusts it. If a candle needs to be trimmed to the proper height, he trims it. Everything in its time, everything done properly with care. As he works, he finds himself entering a state that is almost meditative, where thought quiets and there is only the physical sensation of hands moving, of metal and glass and wax, of the small adjustments and accommodations that are necessary when working with real materials in the real world. This state is peaceful, deeply peaceful, and time seems to stretch and thin, losing its urgency, becoming something more like a gentle river that he floats upon, carried along without effort. When all 7 candles are installed, he steps back and looks at the complete array. The lanterns rest on their tray, each one containing its candle, each one ready to be lit and to shine. They look eager somehow, as though they too are anticipating the evening, as though they know they will soon be called upon to perform their purpose, to offer their particular quality of light to the world. But he does not light them yet. That will come later at the proper time, as part of the ceremony itself. For now, it is enough that they are prepared, that everything is ready, that the work of his hands has created these vessels of light that will soon carry peace into the evening. He covers the tray with a soft cloth to protect the lanterns from dust, to keep them clean and perfect for the ceremony ahead. Then he turns away, moving to the small sink in the corner of the workshop where he washes his hands, scrubbing away any traces of oil or wax, feeling the cool water run over his skin, watching it swirl down the drain and away. The preparation is complete. The lanterns are ready. Now comes the waiting, the pause before the ceremony, the quiet time when he can rest, can have a cup of tea, can simply be still and let the anticipation build naturally, organically, until the moment arrives when it is time to light the first lantern, to begin the gentle progression that will carry the village through another peaceful evening, another night of rest, another cycle of the eternal rhythm that is life in Duskfall village. The glow of the first lantern. The afternoon, if such a time can be said to exist in Duskfall village, passes in its own unhurried way. The lantern maker takes his tea in the garden, sitting on a wooden bench worn smooth by years of use, positioned to overlook both the flower beds and the lake beyond. The tea is a different blend this time, something for the later part of the day, green tea with mint and a curl of lemon peel, refreshing and gentle, awakening but not agitating. He watches the swans on the lake glide past, their movements so smooth they seem to be pulled along by invisible threads. A breeze moves through the garden, stirring the lavender, releasing its scent. Butterflies visit the flowers, their wings like stained glass windows caught in motion, blues and oranges and soft yellows. Time does what it always does here. It flows without rushing, it passes without pressure, it simply is, like breath, like heartbeat, like the gentle lapping of water against the shore. When the light begins to shift, not darkening but deepening, taking on a slightly richer quality, as though honey were being added to amber, the lantern maker rises from his bench. He carries his empty teacup inside, rinses it, sets it to dry. He moves through the cottage, lighting a few candles in the main room, enough to create a warm glow, but not so many that the space feels bright. He adds another log to the stove, ensuring the fire will keep burning through the evening. Then he returns to the workshop. The lanterns wait for him, still covered by their cloth. He removes the cloth slowly, folding it carefully, setting it aside. The lanterns gleam in the workshop's gentle light, patient and beautiful, each one a small promise waiting to be fulfilled. He looks at them for a long moment, feeling a wave of affection, of gratitude for these objects that he has made with his own hands, that will go out into the village and perform their quiet work of beautification and comfort. It is time. He lights a long taper from one of the workshop candles, a thin wand of flame that he will use to light the lanterns one by one. The taper catches easily, its flame springing to life, dancing at the end of the wick. He holds it carefully, respectfully, aware that he is holding something alive, something that must be treated with care. He moves to the first lantern, the teardrop of pale blue glass, the one that holds the chamomile lavender candle. He opens the small door in the lantern's frame, a hinged panel that allows access to the candle inside. With steady hands, He touches the taper to the candle's wick. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the wick catches, a tiny point of orange light that grows, that steadies, that becomes a flame. The candle begins to burn, and as it burns, the wax warms and releases its scent. Chamomile and lavender drift into the air, subtle at first, then more present. The flame's light fills the lantern, and the blue glass transforms that light, softens it, cools it, turns it into something ethereal and calm. The light that emerges from the lantern is no longer the warm orange of candlelight, but something cooler, something that suggests water and sky, peace and quietness, the deep calm that lives at the center of all things. The lantern maker closes the lantern door and watches the flame settle, watches it find its rhythm, the gentle flicker that means it has enough air, that it is burning properly, that it will continue to burn for hours. He nods, satisfied, and moves to the second lantern. This one is the amber paper lantern, painted the color of honey and autumn. He opens its door, lights the cinnamon clove candle within. The flame takes hold, and immediately the scent fills the air, warm, spicy, comforting. The paper glows from within, and the light that passes through it is golden, rich, the color of harvest, of home, of safety. The painted paper seems to come alive in the light, its variations in color becoming more pronounced, its texture more visible. The lantern radiates warmth, not just physical heat, but emotional warmth, the kind that makes you want to gather close, to share stories, to feel connected to others. The third lantern is the tiny crystal bead sphere. Lighting this one requires extra care because the candle is so small, the flame so delicate. He touches the taper to the wick, and it catches. The flame is tiny, but its effect is immediate and dramatic. The crystal beads surrounding the flame catch the light and multiply it, throwing tiny sparks and rainbows in all directions. The workshop walls suddenly dance with points of colored light, with small moving rainbows that slide across surfaces like living things. The effect is magical, delightful, impossible not to smile at. This lantern is pure joy, pure celebration of light and beauty. The fourth lantern, the cylindrical one with textured green-tinted glass, accepts its flame with quiet dignity. The eucalyptus mint candle releases its fresh, clean scent, and the light that passes through the textured glass creates patterns that ripple and flow, like wind on water, like breath made visible. This light is steady, reliable, a presence that says, "I am here, I will remain, you can rest knowing I am keeping watch." The fifth lantern, the purple sphere with its 100 tiny holes, transforms when lit. The candle inside, myrrh and patchouli mysterious and deep, sends light through each small hole, and these rays of light project onto the surfaces around the lantern, creating spiraling patterns that seem to move even though they are still, that seem to suggest the wheeling of stars, the turning of the cosmos, the vast, slow movements of celestial time. Standing near this lantern is like standing under a sky full of stars, like being reminded that you are part of something vast, something beautiful, something that extends far beyond the small concerns of daily life. The sixth lantern, the hexagonal one painted with wildflowers, glows with a gentle, warm light when its candle is lit. The garden scent mixture releases into the air, violet and poppy, daisy and cornflower, lavender and wild rose, and suddenly the workshop smells like a meadow in full bloom, like summer afternoon, like the generous beauty of the natural world. The painted flowers on the lantern panels seem to become more vivid in the candlelight, as though they too are responding to the flame, as though they remember what it was like to be alive, growing in the sun. And finally, the seventh lantern, the white lotus, the most precious and rare. He lights its pure beeswax candle with a sense of reverence, of completing something important. The flame catches and grows, and the white glass begins to glow with a light so pure, so clean, that it seems less like firelight and more like light from some other source, some deeper place. The lotus petals seem to open slightly in the candlelight, though this must be an illusion, a trick of shadow and light. The scent of pure beeswax fills the air, sweet and simple, unadorned truth, direct connection to the essence of light itself. All 7 lanterns are now burning, and the workshop has been transformed. What was already a place of beauty has become something more, a sanctuary, a temple, a space where light is celebrated in all its forms, where the simple act of illumination becomes a form of worship, of gratitude, of love offered to the world. The lantern maker stands in the center of his workshop, surrounded by the glow of the 7 lanterns, and he breathes deeply. The scents mingle in the air, chamomile and cinnamon, rose and eucalyptus, myrrh and garden flowers, pure beeswax. The lights dance and shimmer, blue and amber, rainbow sparks and green ripples, spiraling stars and wildflower warmth, pure white radiance. It is almost overwhelming, almost too much beauty to bear, and yet it is also exactly right, exactly what this moment needs, exactly what the world needs. He closes his eyes and simply stands there, feeling the warmth of the candles on his face, breathing the mingled scents, hearing the tiny sounds the lanterns make, the barely audible crackle of burning wicks, the slight chime of the crystal beads moving in heated air currents, the soft breath of flame consuming wax and air, transforming them into light. This is the moment he works for, the moment when all the preparation culminates in this simple fact of light existing, of beauty being present, of peace being offered to anyone who encounters it. This is why he makes lanterns. This is why he rises each day and returns to his workshop and shapes metal and glass and paper into vessels for flame. This is his offering, his gift, his way of saying to the world, "Look, there is still light, there is still beauty, there is still reason to hope." He stands in the glow for several minutes, letting himself be filled with the light, letting it seep into his bones, into his heart, into the deepest places where he carries his own worries and sorrows and fears. The light touches all of it, soothes all of it, reminds him that he too is held, he too is loved, he too deserves the peace and comfort that these lanterns offer to others. And then, when he is ready, when he has received what he needed to receive, he opens his eyes. The lanterns burn steadily. The workshop glows. And now it is time to carry these lights out into the village, to begin the evening ceremony, to share this beauty with all who live in Duskfall, all who walk its gentle streets, all who have come to this place seeking rest, seeking peace, seeking a moment of respite from the endless demands of the wider world. He lifts the tray carefully, balancing it, feeling the weight of the lanterns, the living weight of flame and purpose. He moves toward the door, and as he passes through, leaving the workshop and entering the cottage, he feels as though he is crossing a threshold not just between rooms, but between states of being, moving from preparation into action, from private devotion into public offering, from solitude into community. The evening ceremony has begun. A walk through Duskfall village. The lantern maker steps out of his cottage into the gentle evening, carrying the tray of glowing lanterns before him like an offering, like a benediction. The air outside is soft, cooler than it was during the day, but not cold, just enough of a shift to make you aware of the passage of time, of the deepening of the dusk that gives the village its name. The path from his cottage leads toward the village center, winding between other cottages and small gardens, all of them glowing with their own soft lights. Windows shine with candlelight. Doorways frame warm interior scenes, families gathering for evening meals, individuals sitting with books or handwork, quiet domestic tableaus that speak of peace and contentment. Occasionally, someone sees him passing and waves, or calls out a soft greeting, and he nods in return, smiling, but does not stop. The lanterns must be placed before full dark, before the ceremony's proper time. The path is lined with stones that glow faintly in the twilight, not with their own light, but with light they have absorbed during the day, stored in their crystalline structures, now released slowly as the evening deepens. These stones were placed long ago, before even the lantern maker came to Duskfall, part of the village's ancient infrastructure, its commitment to ensuring that no one ever walks in complete darkness, that the way is always visible, always safe. As he walks, he becomes aware of the sounds of the village settling into evening. Somewhere a door closes softly. A dog barks once, then is quiet. There is laughter from one of the cottages, gentle and warm. Music drifts from another dwelling, the sound of a wooden flute playing a simple melody, something old and familiar, a tune that everyone in the village knows without remembering where they learned it. The scent of evening meals cooking mingles with the perfume of night-blooming flowers, moonflower and evening primrose, nicotiana and night-scented stock. These plants close during the day and open as evening comes, releasing their fragrances to attract the moths and night-flying insects that pollinate them. The lantern maker breathes deeply, taking in these scents along with those emanating from his lanterns, and the combination is rich, complex, a sensory experience that grounds him firmly in this moment, in this place, in this gentle progression from day's tasks toward night's rest. He passes the baker's cottage, and the baker herself is standing in the doorway, wiping flour from her hands with a towel. She sees him and smiles broadly, and he pauses for just a moment, tilting the tray slightly so she can see the lanterns more clearly. "Beautiful as always," she says, her voice soft and warm. "Will you be placing them in the usual spots?" "Most of them," he replies quietly, "though I thought I might try the willow grove tonight for the crystal one. The trees there could use some rainbow light." She nods, understanding immediately. They would love that. Safe walking, lantern maker. And peaceful evening to you, he responds, and continues on his way. The path curves past the village well, a deep stone structure with a wooden roof supported by 4 carved posts. The well is old, older than any building in the village, and it provides the sweetest, coldest water, drawn from somewhere deep in the earth where ancient aquifers flow through rock and sand. A bucket rests on the edge of the well, and beside it, a ladle for those who wish to drink. The lantern maker makes a mental note to place one of the lanterns here, the steady green one, perhaps, the one that speaks of breath and renewal. Those who come to draw water in the evening will appreciate its light, and its message that water and air are the basic gifts, the fundamental supports of life. He continues past the weaver's workshop, past the potter's house with its distinctive chimney shaped like a bottle, past the garden where the village children grow vegetables and learn about the patient work of coaxing food from earth and seed. This garden is quiet now, its beds tucked in for the evening, but even in the twilight, he can see the shapes of tomato plants staked and climbing, the sprawl of squash vines, the orderly rows of onions and carrots, the ambitious reach of bean poles. The path opens into the village square, the heart of Duskfall, where the ancient oak stands with its spreading branches and its crown of lanterns. These lanterns, dozens of them, hung there over years, each one placed with ceremony, glow softly, creating a canopy of light beneath the tree's leafy ceiling. The square is paved with the same smooth river stones as the rest of the village, but here they form a pattern, a labyrinth that spirals inward to the base of the tree. Some villagers walk this labyrinth as a form of meditation, following its path from edge to center and back again, letting the walking quiet their minds, letting the repetitive movement bring them into presence, into peace. Tonight, several people are in the square. 2 elders sit on one of the benches carved from driftwood, talking quietly, their white heads close together. A young woman walks the labyrinth slowly, her eyes half closed, her face serene. A small child plays near the base of the oak, arranging pebbles into patterns, building and unbuilding with the seriousness that children bring to their play. The lantern maker moves quietly around the perimeter of the square, choosing his spots carefully. The first lantern he places is the amber one, the lantern of home and hearth, with its cinnamon clove scent and its warm golden light. He hangs it from a low branch of the oak, positioning it so that its glow falls on the bench where the elders sit. They notice immediately, pausing in their conversation to look up at the light, and their faces soften with appreciation. One of them places a hand over her heart, a gesture of thanks, and the lantern maker inclines his head in acknowledgement. The second lantern finds its place on a stone pedestal near the entrance to the labyrinth. This is the blue one, the lantern of calm waters and quiet minds, scented with chamomile and lavender. Its cool, peaceful light will help those who walk the labyrinth to find their center, to release their worries, to sink into the meditative state that the spiral path encourages. The young woman on the labyrinth opens her eyes as the lantern is placed, and she smiles, a small, grateful expression that needs no words. The lantern maker continues around the square, placing the wildflower lantern near the children's play area, where its garden scents and gentle, natural light will watch over the young ones. He places the white lotus lantern at the very center of the square, at the base of the oak tree itself, where it can serve as a focal point, a reminder of aspiration and purity, a beacon for anyone seeking clarity or peace. 3 lanterns placed for remaining. He lifts the tray again, feeling it lighter now, and continues his walk through the village. The path leads him past the library, a small stone building with tall, narrow windows and a green door. The library is always open, always welcoming, its rooms filled with books and comfortable chairs, with small tables where people can sit and read, can lose themselves in stories and knowledge, and the preserved thoughts of writers long gone from the world, but still present in the words they left behind. He can see through the windows that several people are inside, reading quietly by lamplight. The librarian, an elderly man with spectacles and a gentle manner, sits at his desk near the door, cataloging new additions to the collection. The lantern maker decides to place the small crystal lantern here, the one that throws rainbows and sparks of colored light. He approaches the door and enters quietly, and the librarian looks up and smiles. "Ah, the evening lanterns," the librarian says softly. "Where will this one go?" "I thought perhaps the reading nook by the east window," the lantern maker replies. "The light will dance on the walls there, and it might bring some joy to those deep and serious reading." "Perfect," the librarian agrees. "Joy is always welcome among the books." The The lantern maker carries the crystal lantern to the reading nook, a corner of the library fitted with a cushioned bench and small side table, surrounded by shelves of poetry and fiction. He places the lantern on the table, and immediately the space is transformed, filled with tiny moving rainbows, with sparks of color that slide across book spines and walls, that create an atmosphere of delight and wonder. A reader in a nearby chair looks up from her book and gasps softly at the beauty, and the lantern maker smiles, nods, and quietly leaves the library. Outside again, he pauses to orient himself. 3 lanterns remain: the green textured one, the purple sphere with its spiral patterns, and the hexagonal wildflower lantern. No, wait, he already placed the wildflower one in the square. 2 lanterns remain then: the green one and the purple one. He decides to place the green lantern at the well, as he had thought earlier. The walk back toward the well takes him past the healer's cottage, where windows glow with soft light and the air smells of drying herbs and healing salves. The healer is standing in her garden, watering late-blooming medicinal plants with a long-spouted can, and she raises a hand in greeting as he passes. At the well, he finds a perfect spot for the green lantern, a small niche in the stone wall of the well itself, clearly designed for just such a purpose. He places the lantern there, and its steady, breathing light illuminates the well's depths, reflects off the water far below, creates a sense of connection between above and below, between air and water, between the surface of things and their hidden depths. The eucalyptus mint scent mingles with the cool, clean smell of the well water, and the combination is refreshing, revitalizing, a reminder that the basic elements of life are always available, always sustaining us. 1 lantern remains now, the purple sphere, the one that casts spiral patterns like wheeling stars. For this lantern, he has saved a special place, one that requires walking a bit beyond the main village, out toward the edge of things where the cultivated gardens give way to wilder spaces, where the path becomes less defined, where the night grows a bit deeper and the sense of mystery a bit stronger. He leaves the village center, walking slowly, letting his feet find their way along the familiar path. The tray is nearly empty now, holding only the 1 lantern, and it feels almost weightless in his hands, as though the lantern itself is eager to reach its destination, to fulfill its purpose. The sounds of the village fade gradually behind him, voices and laughter, the soft closing of doors, the distant notes of the flute still playing its simple, endless melody. The path leads him toward the bridge. The Lantern Bridge Crossing. The bridge that spans the narrow part of Duskfall Lake is an ancient structure, built from stone and wood, gracefully arched, wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side but no wider. Its stones are worn smooth by countless crossings, by rain and wind and the passage of seasons. The railings on either side are carved from oak, the wood darkened by age and weather, carved with patterns of vines and water lilies, of fish and herons, of all the life that inhabits the lake and its shores. The lantern maker approaches the bridge slowly, savoring this moment. The bridge is one of his favorite places in all of Duskfall village, a threshold space that is neither here nor there, that belongs equally to land and water, that serves as a passage between the village proper and the wilder areas beyond. Standing on the bridge, you can feel the presence of the lake beneath you, can hear the gentle lap of water against stone pillars, can sense the deep, still power of all that water, all that coolness, all that reflecting surface that mirrors the sky and the stars and the lights of the village. Tonight, the lake is especially still, its surface like dark glass, like polished obsidian. The twilight sky is reflected perfectly in its depths, creating the illusion that there are 2 skies, one above and one below, and the bridge is suspended between them, floating in space, a pathway through the air itself. The lantern maker steps onto the bridge, feeling the familiar slight give of the wooden planks beneath his feet, hearing their soft creak. He moves to the center of the bridge, to the highest point of its arch, and there he pauses. He sets down the tray on the wide stone railing and simply stands, breathing, looking out over the water, letting himself arrive fully in this place. The lake stretches out on either side, its far shores visible as darker masses against the twilight, lined with trees, willows and birches, alders and pines, that lean toward the water as though they long to touch it, to join with it, to dissolve into its cool embrace. The lake is fed by springs that bubble up from the earth, and by small streams that descend from the hills, and it empties through a gentle waterfall at its southern end, a waterfall that can be heard from the village on very quiet nights, a distant rush and tumble of water falling into pools below. The lantern maker has heard stories about this lake, old stories that the villagers tell on winter evenings when the fire burns low and people draw close for warmth. Some say the lake has no bottom, that it descends into the earth forever, connecting to underground rivers that flow through darkness, that eventually reach the sea though they never see sunlight. Others say there are treasures at the bottom of the lake, offerings left there long ago by people who came to Duskfall seeking peace, seeking healing, seeking answers to questions that could not be answered in words. He doesn't know if these stories are true, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that the lake is here, vast and still and beautiful, a presence that anchors the village, that provides water and fish and beauty, that serves as a mirror for the sky, that reminds everyone who sees it that there are deep things in the world, quiet things, things that sustain us in ways we can barely understand. He lifts the purple sphere lantern from the tray, holding it carefully in both hands. This lantern, with its 100 tiny holes through which light streams, with its myrpatulous scent and its patterns like wheeling stars, belongs here on the bridge. It will hang from the center of the arch, suspended over the water, and its light will fall on the lake's surface, will be reflected and multiplied, will create patterns that spiral across the water, that seem to suggest movement even in stillness, that remind anyone crossing the bridge that they are part of something vast, something cosmic, something that extends far beyond the small circle of their individual lives. There is a hook in the center of the bridge's arch, placed there long ago for exactly this purpose. The lantern maker reaches up and hangs the purple sphere from this hook. The lantern settles into place, swaying slightly in the gentle breeze that moves across the water, and as it sways, the patterns of light that stream through its 100 holes begin to dance across the bridge, across the water, across the lantern maker himself. He stands beneath the lantern, looking up at it, watching the patterns of light spiral across his upturned face, and he feels a deep sense of rightness, of completion. This is where this lantern belongs. This is the light it was meant to cast. And now it is here, doing its work, offering its particular gift to anyone who crosses this bridge, to anyone who pauses here to look at the water, to anyone who needs to be reminded that they are part of the great turning of the cosmos, that they too are caught up in the dance of light and shadow, of time and space, of all the vast, mysterious forces that shape our lives in ways we can only dimly perceive. The scent of myrrh and patchouli drifts on the breeze, mysterious and deep, and it mingles with the smell of the lake. Fresh water and aquatic plants, mud and fish, the clean, mineral scent of water that has passed through rock and earth, that carries with it the taste of stone and darkness, and the patient work of gravity pulling all things downward, always downward, toward the center of the earth, toward the deep places where pressure and heat transform everything into something new. The lantern maker stands on the bridge for several more minutes, simply being present with the lantern, with the lake, with this moment. He watches as the light patterns spin across the water, creating the illusion of motion, of stars wheeling overhead, even though the sky is still, even though nothing moves except the small swaying of the lantern in the breeze. A fish rises somewhere out in the lake, breaking the surface with a small splash, creating ripples that spread outward in perfect circles. The ripples catch the lantern light and carry it with them, spreading it across the water, and for a moment it seems as though the entire lake is glowing, is filled with light, is participating in the lantern's offering of beauty and peace. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the cool, moist air that rises from the lake, and then releases it slowly. His body feels relaxed, loose, at ease. His mind is quiet, empty of thoughts, simply present with sensation, the feel of the breeze on his skin, the scent of myrrh and water, the sound of the lake's gentle breathing, the sight of the spiral patterns of light dancing across every surface. This is meditation. This is prayer. This is the practice of being fully alive, fully present, fully aware of the gift of existence, of the privilege of standing here in this moment on this bridge in this place where beauty is so abundant that it overflows, that it spills out into the world like light through a lantern's holes, like water from a spring, like love from a heart that has been opened by the simple act of paying attention. Eventually, because all moments must end even as they contain within themselves the seed of the next moment, the lantern maker stirs. He picks up the empty tray, holding it against his chest, feeling its weight, or rather the absence of weight, the emptiness that speaks of completion, of work done, of purposes fulfilled. All 7 lanterns are now placed throughout the village, each one glowing in its proper location, each one offering its particular quality of light, its particular message, its particular gift. But his evening is not yet complete. There is one more place he must go, one more ritual he must perform before he can return home to his cottage, to his own fire and his own tea, to his own rest. He must visit the willow grove. He turns away from the lake, away from the purple sphere lantern still spinning its patterns across the water, and he begins to walk. The path leads from the bridge into the wilder areas beyond the village, into spaces where humans have shaped the land less, where nature asserts itself more strongly, where the cultivated gives way to the spontaneous, where gardens become woods, where intention meets mystery, and the two dance together in the eternal partnership that creates all beauty, all life, all the endless variation and surprise that is the world. The path grows narrower, less defined. The stones beneath his feet are rougher, covered in places with moss that glows faintly in the twilight. Trees lean over the path, creating a tunnel of branches and leaves, and through these leaves the ambient light of the eternal dusk filters down in shafts and patches, creating pools of illumination separated by gentle shadows. He walks slowly, carefully, his eyes adjusting to the dimmer light, his feet finding the way through memory and attention. The sounds here are different from the village sounds, wilder, more varied. Birds call from the trees, settling in for the night. Small creatures rustle in the underbrush. The wind moves through leaves with a sound like distant water, like breathing, like the gentle susurration of the world itself speaking in its own language, telling stories in wind and leaf rustle, in bird song and the creak of branches. And ahead, through the trees, he can see the first willows of the grove, their long, trailing branches moving in the breeze like hair, like the fingers of dancers, like water falling in slow motion. The willow grove calls to him, and he answers, moving forward along the path, carrying his empty tray, his heart full of quiet gladness, his mind at peace, his body tired in the pleasant way that comes from work well done, from a day lived with attention, from hours spent in service of beauty and light. The willow grove awaits. The whispering willow grove. The willow grove exists in a space that feels separate from the rest of Duskfall village, though it is not far in terms of actual distance, no more than a 10-minute walk from the bridge. But distance here is not measured in steps or time, but in feeling, in atmosphere, in the quality of attention that a place demands and rewards. The willow grove is a place apart, a sanctuary within a sanctuary, a green room where the walls are made of trailing branches, and the ceiling is a canopy of leaves that filter the eternal twilight into a soft, greenish glow. The lantern maker passes between two ancient willow trees that stand like guardians at the grove's entrance. Their trunks are massive, gnarled and twisted with age, covered in bark that is deeply furrowed, that holds water and moss, that provides homes for insects and small creatures. These trees are old, older than the village, perhaps older than the memory of anyone living. They have stood here for so long that they have become part of the land itself, their roots reaching deep into the earth, drinking from hidden springs, anchoring the soil, providing stability and shelter for all the life that gathers here. Once inside the grove, the world changes. The air is cooler, moister, filled with the scent of water and green growing things. The ground is soft beneath his feet, carpeted with moss and fallen willow leaves, and each step makes almost no sound, cushioned by the layers of organic material that have accumulated over years, over decades, over however long this grove has existed in its quiet, patient growing. The willows here number perhaps 20, perhaps more. It is hard to count them because their branches intermingle, because they seem to merge with each other, to become a single entity rather than individual trees. The branches hang down in long, graceful curtains, trailing all the way to the ground in some places, creating chambers and passageways, hidden spaces and small clearings, a maze of green that invites exploration, that rewards wandering, that offers something new each time you visit. The light in the grove is dim but not dark, filtered through layers of leaves, diffused and scattered, so that it seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, to emanate from the air itself rather than from any particular source. This light is the color of new leaves, of jade, of the deepest parts of the forest where sunlight barely penetrates. It is a healing light, a restful light, a light that soothes eyes tired from too much brightness, minds tired from too much stimulation. In the center of the grove, where the largest willows have created a natural clearing, there is a small pool. This pool is fed by a spring that bubbles up from the ground, clear water welling up from the earth in a constant, gentle flow. The pool is perhaps 10 feet across, its edges undefined, its depth impossible to judge because the water is so clear that you seem to be looking not into water, but into clarity itself, into transparency, into the very idea of reflection and depth. The pool's surface is perfectly still, broken only by the small disturbance where the spring water enters, a gentle bubbling that creates tiny ripples that spread outward, that rock the floating willow leaves. that create the only movement in this otherwise motionless space. The water reflects the willow branches overhead, the soft green light, the occasional glimpse of twilight sky visible through gaps in the canopy. The lantern maker approaches the pool slowly, reverently. This is the heart of the grove, the source of its power, the reason why this place feels so peaceful, so complete, so perfectly itself. Water, earth, and tree, the three elements meeting in harmony, each supporting the others, each contributing to the whole, creating together something that is greater than any of them alone. He kneels beside the pool, setting his empty tray on the moss-covered ground. He looks into the water, seeing his own reflection looking back at him. An old face, kind eyes, white hair, the face of someone who has lived long and gently, who has found his purpose and fulfilled it day after day, who has learned the deep satisfaction that comes from simple, repetitive work done with love and attention. But he is not here merely to look at his reflection. He is here to complete the evening ceremony, to perform the final ritual that will bring the day to its proper close, that will prepare the village, and himself, for the night ahead, for the hours of rest and dreaming, for the journey into sleep that everyone must take, alone but somehow together, each person in their own bed, but all of them held by the same darkness, the same silence, the same gentle letting go. From the pocket of his vest, he removes a small cloth pouch. This pouch is made from silk, dyed a deep indigo blue, and it is tied with a silver cord. Inside the pouch are offerings, dried flowers from his garden, a small crystal found by the lakeshore, a coin so old its markings have worn smooth, a written prayer folded small. These objects have no monetary value, but they carry intention, gratitude, the acknowledgement that what we have comes from sources beyond ourselves, that we are dependent on forces we cannot control, that the appropriate response to the gift of life is thankfulness. He unties the cord and opens the pouch. One by one, he removes the objects and places them gently on the surface of the pool. The dried flowers float, their petals spread out, creating small islands of color, lavender purple, rose pink, chamomile yellow. The crystal sinks slowly, catching light as it descends, finally coming to rest on the sandy bottom of the pool, where it glows softly like a tiny star fallen to earth. The old coin spirals down through the water, turning and catching light, finally settling beside the crystal. The folded prayer floats for a moment, then begins to absorb water, to sink, carrying its words down into the depths where they will dissolve, will become part of the pool, will merge with the water that flows from the spring, that eventually finds its way to the lake, that participates in the great cycle of evaporation and condensation, rain and snow, the water cycle that connects all things, that proves we are all part of the same system, the same living body of the earth. As he places each offering, the lantern maker speaks quietly, his words barely audible even to himself, more breath than speech, more intention than language. He speaks his gratitude for another day lived, another opportunity to practice his craft, another chance to serve the village and the people he loves. He speaks his hope that the night will bring rest to all who need it, peace to troubled hearts, healing to injured bodies and spirits. He speaks his commitment to continue this work for as long as he is able, to tend the light, to create beauty, to offer what he can in the ongoing work of making the world a more gentle place. When all the offerings have been placed, when all the words have been spoken, he sits back on his heels and simply watches the pool. The objects rest where they have fallen, visible through the clear water, and they seem to belong there, to have always belonged there, to be part of the pool's natural composition. The water continues its gentle bubbling, and the ripples spread outward, rocking the floating petals, creating small movements that are soothing to watch, that draw the eye and quiet the mind. The willows around him sway gently in a breeze he cannot feel down here in the protected center of the grove, and their branches whisper as they move, leaf against leaf, a sound like soft voices speaking in a language just beyond understanding, saying things that your mind cannot grasp but your heart knows, communicating in the way that trees communicate, slowly, patiently, in rhythms measured in seasons and years rather than seconds and minutes. He sits by the pool for a long time, not counting minutes, not watching any clock, simply being present with the water and the trees, with the soft green light and the gentle sounds, with the peace that fills this place, that overflows it, that seems to emanate from the earth itself, from the spring that brings water from deep places, from the willows whose roots drink that water and whose branches create shelter, from the accumulated years of quietness, of growth, of life patiently unfolding, according to its own nature. This is the deepest meditation, the truest rest, not sleep, but this quality of awareness that is relaxed yet present, that asks nothing, that grasps at nothing, that simply allows experience to flow through without trying to hold it, to keep it, to make it into something other than what it is. The lantern maker has come here thousands of times over the years, and each time is the same and different, familiar and new, a return and a discovery. Eventually, though time seems to have little meaning here, he becomes aware that it is time to go. Not because he is done, not because the experience has completed itself, but simply because the next thing is calling, because the rhythm of his day includes a return home, a cup of tea, his own bed waiting. He rises slowly, his knees stiff from kneeling, and he takes one last look at the pool with its offerings, at the willows with their trailing branches, at this green sanctuary that has held him once again, that has received what he brought and given what he needed. He picks up his empty tray, and as he does, he notices something. There on the tray is a willow leaf, a single perfect leaf, long and narrow, the color of spring grass, its veins delicate and beautiful. The leaf was not there before, he is certain of this, but it is there now, placed by the wind perhaps, or by the trees themselves, or by whatever force watches over this grove, whatever presence resides here in the green silence. He takes it as a gift, as a blessing, as a small acknowledgement that his offerings have been received, that the exchange has been completed, that all is well. He places the leaf carefully in the pocket of his vest, feeling its cool smoothness against his fingers, and then he turns toward the path that will lead him out of the grove, back through the gathering darkness, back toward the village and home. As he walks between the guardian willows at the grove's entrance, he pauses and places one hand on each of their trunks, feeling the rough bark, the life that flows beneath it, the deep patience of trees. "Thank you," he whispers, and whether he is thanking the trees or something larger, something that includes the trees but extends beyond them, he cannot say and does not need to. Thanks are given. Thanks are received. The exchange is complete. He walks back along the path through the woods, through the tunnel of branches and the patches of soft twilight, his empty tray under his arm, his heart full of peace, his mind quiet as the pool he has just left. The path leads him back toward the bridge, back toward the village with its glowing windows and its gentle sounds, back toward the life he has built here in Duskfall, the simple, beautiful life of making lanterns and lighting them, of offering beauty to the world, of tending the light that pushes back not against darkness. For darkness is not the enemy, but against despair, against the forgetting of beauty, against the loss of hope that can happen when we stop paying attention to the small graces that surround us always. The lakeside lantern reflection. The lantern maker's path back from the willow grove does not take him directly home. There is one more stop he wishes to make, one more place to visit before the evening ceremony is truly complete. The path forks near the bridge, and instead of crossing back into the village, he takes the fork that leads along the lakeshore, a narrow trail that runs between the water and a low stone wall covered in climbing roses. The lakeshore path is one of the most peaceful walks in all of Duskfall village. On one side, the lake stretches out, vast and still, its surface reflecting the twilight sky and the first faint stars that are beginning to appear. On the other side, the stone wall rises about waist-high, and beyond it are the gardens and cottages of the village, their lights glowing warmly, smoke rising from their chimneys in thin, lazy spirals. The roses that cover the wall are in their late season, past their prime bloom, but still beautiful, still fragrant, their blossoms the color of cream and blush pink, their leaves deep green and glossy. He walks slowly, in no hurry, letting his feet find their rhythm on the smooth stones of the path. The air here smells of water and roses, of the slightly muddy, organic scent of the lakeshore, of the clean coolness that rises from the water's surface. Sometimes, when he walks this path in the deepest part of evening, mist rises from the lake, thin tendrils of vapor that drift across the path, that curl around his ankles like curious cats, that create an atmosphere of mystery and softness. Tonight there is no mist, but the air is thick with moisture, with the promise of mist to come later when the temperature drops further, when the warm water of the lake meets the cooler air of night and creates that transformation of liquid into vapor, that liminal state between water and air, between visible and invisible, between the tangible world and the world of dreams. He walks until he reaches his favorite spot, a place where the wall curves outward, creating a small promontory that extends slightly over the water. Here, someone long ago placed a bench, not made from driftwood like the benches in the village square, but from stone, a simple slab of granite carved with a pattern of waves along its edge, supported by two solid pillars. The bench faces the lake, and sitting here, you can see across the water to the far shore, can watch the swans glide past, can observe the subtle changes in light and color that mark the progression of time, even in a place where time seems to move differently than it does in the wider world. The lantern maker sits down on the stone bench, setting his empty tray beside him. The stone is cool through the fabric of his trousers, but not uncomfortably so, just enough coolness to be refreshing, to remind him that he is alive, that he has a body that feels temperature and texture, that responds to the world around it with sensations that are the body's way of communicating, of saying, "I am here, I am present, I am part of all this." He looks out across the lake, and in the growing darkness, he can see the lanterns he has placed throughout the village. The amber one glows in the village square, visible through the trees, a warm point of golden light. The blue one is there too, slightly lower, its cool glow distinct from the amber. The white lotus lantern shines at the base of the oak, pure and bright even at this distance. The green one at the well is not visible from here, blocked by cottages, but he knows it is there, doing its work, offering its steady, breathing light to anyone who comes to draw water. And there on the bridge, the purple sphere lantern hangs, and even from this distance he can see the spiral patterns it casts, can see the way those patterns dance on the water beneath the bridge, creating the illusion of motion, of stars wheeling, of the great turning of the cosmos made visible in light and shadow. Seeing all the lanterns from this vantage point, seeing them as a constellation, as a gathering of lights scattered throughout the village, each one in its proper place, each one offering its particular gift, this fills the lantern maker with a deep sense of satisfaction, of completion. This is his work. This is what he does. And seeing it all together like this, seeing the pattern of light he has created, he feels the same sense of rightness that an artist feels when stepping back from a painting to see the whole composition, when all the individual brush strokes come together into a unified vision, into something greater than the sum of its parts. The lake itself has become a second canvas for the lantern's light. Where the light from the village falls on the water, it is reflected, doubled, multiplied. The still surface of the lake acts as a perfect mirror, and so there seem to be two villages, one built on land and one built upside down in the water, an inverted realm where everything is the same but reversed, where up is down and down is up, where the foundations of buildings disappear into mysterious depths rather than resting on solid earth. This reflected village has always fascinated the lantern maker. It seems to suggest that for every visible world there is an invisible one, that for everything we can see and touch there is a corresponding thing in some other realm, not separate from this one but intimately connected to it, existing simultaneously, two sides of the same reality. The reflection is not less real than the thing reflected. It is simply a different kind of real, a different way of being present. He watches the reflections shimmer on the water, and he thinks about reflection itself, about the way we see ourselves in others, in the world around us, in the art we create and the work we do. The lanterns reflect his values, his care, his desire to bring beauty and peace into the world. The village reflects the values of its people, gentleness, community, the commitment to living slowly and intentionally. The lake reflects the sky, and the sky reflects what? The mind of whatever created all this, perhaps. The infinite imagination that dreamed worlds into being, that spoke light into the darkness, that set everything in motion, and then stepped back to watch it unfold. A swan glides past, cutting a V-shaped wake through the still water, disturbing the reflections, breaking them into fragments that shimmer and reassemble as the wake spreads out and dissipates. The swan is white, luminous in the twilight, its neck curved in that perfect S-shape that swans make, its body floating effortlessly, its feet, invisible beneath the water, paddling in steady rhythm, propelling the bird forward with a grace that makes the work invisible, that makes movement look like floating, like levitation, like magic. The lantern maker watches the swan until it disappears around a bend in the shoreline, and then he returns his attention to the reflections, to the doubled village glowing in the water. He notices that his breath has deepened, has slowed, that his body has settled into the bench, has released tensions he didn't know he was carrying. His shoulders are soft, his jaw is loose, his hands rest open on his knees, palms up, a posture of receptivity, of openness to whatever comes. This is a kind of meditation different from the meditation in the willow grove. There, the meditation was active in a way, involved in the ritual of offering, in the placing of objects, in the speaking of words. Here, the meditation is purely receptive, purely observational. He is simply sitting, simply watching, simply allowing the beauty of the scene to enter him without trying to hold it, without trying to make it mean anything, without trying to turn it into something other than what it is. The light continues to deepen, the twilight moving slowly toward what might be called night, though in Duskfall village night never becomes complete darkness, never becomes the absolute absence of light. There is always a glow, always some illumination, whether from lanterns or stars, from windows or the subtle luminescence of certain plants and stones, from the moon when it rises, full and silver, to sail across the sky like a great pearl set in blue velvet. He sits on the stone bench for a long time, watching the water, watching the reflections, watching the village lights, watching the sky. His mind is quiet now, emptied of thoughts, simply present with perception, with the direct experience of being alive in this moment, in this place, in this body that breathes and feels and sees. Sometimes a moment comes when everything seems to pause, when the world holds its breath, when you feel yourself touching something fundamental, something true in a way that goes beyond words or thoughts. This is such a moment. The lantern maker sits on the bench by the lake, and for a timeless span, seconds or minutes or hours, impossible to tell, he is not separate from the lake, from the lanterns, from the village, from the twilight sky. He is part of it all, woven into it, inseparable from it. There is no lantern maker and lanterns and village and lake. There is only this, only the unified field of existence, only the endless, seamless web of being in which everything arises and exists and passes away, moment after moment, breath after breath, wave after wave on the shore of time. And then the moment passes, as all moments must. He becomes aware again of his individual body, his separate self, the lantern maker sitting on a bench by a lake in a village called Duskfall. But he carries something with him from that moment of unity, some reminder, some trace, some subtle shift in perspective that will stay with him, that will inform his work and his days, that will make him just a little more patient, a little more kind, a little more aware of the preciousness of existence, of the miracle that is each ordinary moment. He rises from the bench slowly, stiffly, feeling his age in his knees and back. He picks up his empty tray and holds it against his chest, and then he begins the final walk home, following the lakeshore path back to where it meets the main village path, then turning toward his cottage, toward his own door, toward the warmth and comfort of his own small space in the world, toward the tea and bread that await him, toward his bed and the sleep that will come when he is ready for it, when his day has been properly completed, when he has done all that needs to be done and can release himself into rest with a clear conscience and a grateful heart. The lights of the village welcome him as he walks. Candles glow in windows. Lanterns, his lanterns, cast their various glows throughout the space. People move about behind curtains, preparing for their own evenings, their own rituals of transition from day to night, from waking to sleep. The village is settling, softening, letting go of the activities of the day, and embracing the quieter activities of evening. Reading, talking, quiet work, contemplation, rest. The path leads him to his own gate, his own garden, his own door. He pushes open the gate, and it swings smoothly on well-oiled hinges, and he walks up the path between the lavender and the roses, between the sage and the mint, through the fragrances that have become so familiar they are like the smell of home itself, like the olfactory signature of his own life. He reaches his door and places his hand on the latch, and for a moment before opening it, he pauses. He turns and looks back at the village, at the lantern lights glowing in the deepening dusk, at the life he has helped to illuminate, and he feels a wave of love so strong it almost brings tears to his eyes. This is his home. These are his people. This is his work. And he is grateful, so deeply grateful for all of it. Then he opens the door and steps inside, and the cottage enfolds him in its warmth and familiarity, and the evening ceremony is complete. The lantern ceremony of light. Inside his cottage, the lantern maker closes the door softly behind him, shutting out the evening air, enclosing himself in the warmth and comfort of home. The main room glows with the candles he lit earlier, their flames steady and bright, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The fire in the stove is burned down but still radiates heat, and he opens the door and adds another log, watching as the flames catch and begin to lick at the new wood, hearing the soft crackle and pop as pockets of air and moisture expand and burst. He sets his empty tray on the table and moves through the cottage, lighting a few more candles, bringing more light into the space. He lights candles on the mantelpiece above the stove, candles on the windowsills, a tall taper in a brass holder that stands on the small table near his reading chair. Each flame adds its glow to the room, and soon the cottage is filled with a warm, golden light that is both cozy and celebratory, both intimate and somehow sacred. This is his own private ceremony, the completion of the evening's ritual that happens not in public, not in the village, but here in his own space, for his own spirit. He has given light to the village, Now he gives light to himself. He has tended to the needs of the community. Now he tends to his own needs. This is not selfishness, but wisdom, the understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you must fill yourself in order to have anything to give. He moves to the cabinet where he keeps his tea collection, opening the doors to reveal rows of tins and jars, each one containing a different blend, a different combination of herbs and leaves. He has teas for morning and teas for afternoon, teas for meditation and teas for celebration, teas for common days and teas for special occasions. Tonight calls for something special, something that acknowledges the completion of the ceremony, something that will help him transition into the final phase of evening, the quiet hours before sleep. He selects a tin painted with stars and moons, and inside it is a blend he created himself. Rooibos for its natural sweetness, rose petals for beauty, a touch of cinnamon for warmth, and passion flower for its gentle calming properties. This tea is the color of sunset when brewed, a deep reddish orange, and it tastes like comfort, like satisfaction, like the feeling of work well done. He fills his copper kettle with fresh water from the jug and sets it on the stove to heat. While he waits for the water to boil, he prepares his favorite teacup, a ceramic cup made by the village potter, glazed in shades of blue and green that remind him of the lake. The cup fits perfectly in his hands, and it has a weight and balance that pleases him, that makes the simple act of holding it a small pleasure. He spoons the tea blend into a small strainer and sets it in the cup, and when the kettle begins its soft song, he pours the boiling water over the herbs, watching them swirl and dance in the hot water, watching the color begin to leach out of them, turning the water from clear to amber to deep rose. He covers the cup with a small saucer to keep the heat in while the tea steeps, and then he moves to his chair by the window. This chair is old, older even than the lantern maker's time in Duskfall village. It was here when he arrived, left by the previous occupant of the cottage, and he has never felt the need to replace it. The chair is made of dark wood, carved with simple patterns, and its cushions are stuffed with horsehair and covered in fabric that was once burgundy but has faded to a soft rose. The chair knows the shape of his body, has conformed to it over years of sitting, and settling into it now is like being embraced, like being held by something that knows you completely, that accepts you without judgment, that offers support without asking anything in return. He sits and removes his vest, folding it carefully and draping it over the arm of the chair. From its pocket, the willow leaf falls out, and he picks it up and holds it to the candlelight, examining it more closely. The leaf is perfect, unblemished, its green color deep and vital, even though it has been separated from the tree. The veins run through it in a delicate pattern, a network of channels that once carried water and nutrients, that participated in the miracle of photosynthesis, that transformed sunlight and air and water into the substance of the tree, into growth, into life itself. He looks at the leaf for a long moment, holding it gently between thumb and forefinger, feeling its smoothness, its slight weight, its reality as an object in the physical world. Then he rises and moves to the small shelf where he keeps his treasures, found objects and gifts, small beautiful things that have accumulated over the years. He places the willow leaf here, laying it carefully on a piece of silk, adding it to the collection. It will dry here, will fade slowly to brown, will curl at the edges, but it will remain, a reminder of tonight, of the willow grove, of the offering made and received. Returning to his chair, he retrieves his teacup and removes the saucer. The tea has steeped perfectly, its color deep and rich, and he lifts the strainer out, letting the last drops fall back into the cup. The scent rises with the steam, rose and cinnamon, the earthy sweetness of rooibos, the subtle floral note of passion flower. He holds the cup beneath his nose and breathes deeply, letting the aroma fill his lungs, begin its gentle work of relaxation. He takes the first sip slowly, carefully, aware that the liquid is hot. The taste spreads across his tongue, sweet without sugar, warm with spice, floral and comforting. He closes his eyes and simply experiences the tea, the warmth of the cup in his hands, the heat traveling down his throat and into his chest, spreading outward through his body like the rays of light from a lantern, like the ripples on the pool in the willow grove, like all the things that move outward from a center, carrying their gifts, their messages, their blessings. He drinks the tea slowly, in small sips, making it last, making the ritual extend itself, giving himself this time, this pause, this moment of pure presence with nothing that needs to be done, nowhere that needs to be reached, no task that waits for completion. The tea is enough. The chair is enough. The candlelight is enough. This moment is complete in itself, lacking nothing, needing nothing added to make it whole. As he drinks, he lets his mind wander gently over the events of the evening. He sees again each lantern in its place, the blue one in the square, the amber one glowing warmly, the tiny crystal sphere throwing rainbows in the library, the green one at the well, the purple sphere on the bridge casting its spiraling patterns, the white lotus at the base of the oak tree, the wildflower lantern watching over the children's play area. Each one chosen carefully, each one placed with intention, each one now doing its work, offering its light, contributing to the gentle illumination of the village. He thinks about the people who will see the lanterns tonight, who will pause in their walking to admire them, who will feel their hearts lifted by the beauty, their worries eased by the peaceful glow. He thinks about the children who will fall asleep with the memory of rainbow lights dancing on library walls, the elders who will sit beneath the oak tree's lantern canopy feeling held and cherished, the travelers who will cross the bridge and see the spiral patterns on the water and remember that they are part of something vast and beautiful. This is why he does this work, not for recognition or praise, though the villagers are kind and generous with their appreciation, but for this feeling, this knowledge that his hands have created something that brings peace, that adds beauty to the world, that makes life a little gentler, a little softer, a little more bearable for those who encounter it. The tea is nearly gone now, just a small amount left in the bottom of the cup. He drinks it down, savoring the last sip, feeling the warmth settle into his belly, feeling his body respond with deepening relaxation. His muscles are loose, his breathing is slow and deep, his mind is quiet and clear. He is tired, but it is a good tired, the tiredness that comes from a day fully lived, from work completed, from purposes fulfilled. He rises from his chair and carries his empty teacup to the kitchen, where he rinses it with cool water and sets it on the drying rack. He banks the fire in the stove, pushing the coals to one side and covering them with ash, so they will burn slowly through the night, keeping just enough warmth in the cottage to keep it comfortable until morning. He moves through the main room, extinguishing most of the candles but leaving a few burning, one on the mantelpiece, one on the windowsill, enough light to guide him if he wakes in the night, enough to keep complete darkness at bay. Then he climbs the stairs to his bedroom, his feet finding each step automatically, his hand trailing along the wall for balance. The stairs creak softly beneath his weight, familiar music, the song of an old house settling into night. At the top of the stairs, he pauses and looks back down into the main room, seeing the few remaining candles still burning, casting their gentle glow, and he feels a wave of affection for this space, for this home that has sheltered him, that has been the base from which he conducts his work, that has held him through seasons and years. In his bedroom, the curtains still move gently in the breeze from the window he left open this morning. The bed waits for him, its covers turned back, the pillows plump and inviting. He undresses slowly, folding his clothes and placing them on the chair by the window. He puts on a nightshirt made of soft, worn cotton that feels like a cloud against his skin, that carries the faint scent of the lavender sachets kept in his dresser drawers. Before getting into bed, he performs one final ritual. He lights the small candle that sits on his bedside table, a candle made especially for this purpose, scented with lavender and chamomile, meant to burn for about an hour. The flame catches and grows, and its light fills the bedroom with a warm, drowsy glow. The scent begins to release into the air, adding to the atmosphere of peace and preparation for sleep. He opens the drawer of his bedside table and removes a small, leather-bound journal and a pen. This journal is where he records his days, not in great detail but in simple notes, the weather, the work accomplished, any thoughts or observations that seem worth preserving. He has kept such journals for years, and they line a shelf in his workshop, a chronicle of his life in Duskfall village, a record of lanterns made and seasons passing, of quiet days accumulating into a life well lived. He writes briefly, his handwriting neat and careful despite the dimness. Tonight place 7 lanterns. All burn well. Visited Willow Grove, left offerings. Lake very still, reflections clear. Feel peaceful and grateful. All is well. He closes the journal and returns it to the drawer, and as he does, his eye falls on another object kept there, a small, smooth stone from the lakeshore, dark gray and oval, fitting perfectly in the palm of his hand. He picks it up and holds it, feeling its coolness, its weight, its reality. This stone is millions of years old, shaped by water and time, and holding it is like holding a piece of eternity, like touching something that existed long before him and will exist long after, that puts his own brief life into perspective, that reminds him he is part of a much larger story. He holds the stone for a moment, then returns it to the drawer and closes it gently. Now finally he is ready for bed. He pulls back the covers and climbs in, feeling the mattress receive him, feeling his body sink into its familiar contours. The sheets are cool against his skin, and he pulls the quilt up to his chin, feeling its weight, its warmth, its comfort settling over him like a blessing. He lies on his back, looking up at the ceiling where the candlelight casts moving shadows. His body is relaxed, heavy with the pleasant exhaustion of a day well spent. His mind is quiet, thoughts arising and dissolving like ripples on water, like the gentle movements of willow branches, like all the soft, flowing things in the world that come and go without struggle, without resistance. The scent of lavender and chamomile fills the room, working its gentle magic, signaling to his body and mind that it is time to let go, to surrender to sleep, to trust the darkness and the silence and the deep rest that waits beyond the threshold of consciousness. Outside his window, the village is quiet, settling into night. The lanterns he placed still burn, will burn for hours yet, their light a gift that continues even as he sleeps, even as he releases his hold on the day and allows himself to drift into dreams. The lantern maker closes his eyes, and the darkness behind his eyelids is soft, comfortable, welcoming. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs completely, and then releases it slowly, feeling tension flow out of him with the exhalation, feeling himself sinking deeper into the bed, into relaxation, into the peaceful state that precedes sleep. His last conscious thought is one of gratitude, for this day, for this work, for this village, for this life. And then even thought begins to fade, to dissolve, and he is floating, drifting, moving like a swan across still water, like a willow leaf on a gentle current, like light spreading out from a lantern into the welcoming darkness of night. The lantern maker's nighttime tea ritual. But sleep does not come immediately. The lantern maker has learned over the years that sleep is not something that can be forced or rushed, that it arrives in its own time, according to its own rhythm. Sometimes it comes quickly, within moments of lying down. Other times it circles for a while, like a shy bird deciding whether to land, requiring patience and stillness before it finally settles. Tonight is one of those nights when sleep is taking its time, and the lantern maker accepts this without frustration, without anxiety. He simply lies in his bed, breathing slowly, letting his body rest even if his mind is not yet ready to fully surrender to unconsciousness. His eyes remain closed, and behind his eyelids, gentle patterns of light and shadow move and shift, the afterimages of the candle flame he was watching, the residual activity of the visual cortex settling down, preparing for the dreams that will come eventually. He becomes aware of sounds, the small sounds of the cottage at night, the soft creak of wood as the house cools, the boards contracting, the structure settling, the whisper of the curtains moving in the breeze, the distant, barely audible sound of the lake, a rhythmic breathing that can only be heard when everything else is silent. Somewhere outside, a night bird calls, a soft, questioning sound, and another bird answers from farther away, the two of them conducting a conversation in a language of pure tone, pure feeling. The candle on his bedside table continues to burn, its flame steady and bright. The scent of lavender and chamomile has deepened, filling the room completely now, and with each breath he draws in this calming fragrance, allowing it to work on his nervous system, allowing it to signal safety, to signal rest, to signal that all is well, and there is nothing to fear in the darkness, nothing to resist in the letting go that is sleep. His body has become very heavy, sinking deep into the mattress, and yet paradoxically it also feels light, almost floating, as though the border between body and bed has become porous, uncertain. This is a pleasant sensation, this feeling of boundaries dissolving, of edges becoming soft, of the solid self beginning to blur and merge with the surrounding world. This is the beginning of the journey into sleep, the first stage of release. He allows his awareness to move through his body, not with the intention of doing anything but simply to notice, to be present with each part in turn. He notices his feet, how they have relaxed completely, how they rest against the sheets with no tension, no holding. He notices his legs, heavy and still, their muscles released from the work of carrying him through the day. He notices his hands, lying open on the quilt, palms up, fingers slightly curled, in a posture of complete letting go. His belly rises and falls with each breath, a gentle rhythm like waves on a shore, like the movement of the lake he loves so much. His chest expands and contracts, effortless breathing, the body knowing exactly what to do without any instruction from the conscious mind. His shoulders have dropped away from his ears, no longer carrying any burden, any responsibility. His neck is soft, his head heavy on the pillow, supported completely, held by the bed as he holds the village with his lanterns, as the earth holds the village, as the universe holds the earth, an infinite chain of holding, of supporting, of carrying. His face has become smooth, all the small muscles of expression relaxed, released from the work of showing emotion, of communicating, of being seen. His jaw is loose, his mouth slightly open, his tongue resting soft against his lower teeth. His eyes, beneath their closed lids, have stopped their tiny movements, have settled into stillness, gazing at nothing, seeing the inner darkness that is restful and complete. And his mind, which has been quiet for some time now, becomes quieter still. Thoughts still arise, brief images, half-formed sentences, memories that bubble up from somewhere deep, but they have lost their stickiness, their ability to catch his attention and hold it. They arise and pass away like clouds moving across the sky, like reflections on water when a breeze disturbs the surface. He does not follow them, does not engage with them. He simply notices them and lets them go, returning again and again to the sensation of breathing, to the feeling of his body resting in the bed, to the present moment which is peaceful, which is safe, which is enough. The candle flame wavers slightly in a draught, and his closed eyes register this change in light, and for a moment his attention sharpens, becomes more alert. But then the flame steadies again, and his attention softens, releases, returns to the gentle floating state that is the antechamber of sleep, the waiting room where consciousness prepares to cross over into the land of dreams. He thinks, briefly, about the lanterns still burning throughout the village. By now, some of them will have burned down significantly, their candles half consumed, their flames smaller but still steady. The crystal lantern in the library will still be throwing its rainbow lights, though perhaps less vibrantly as the candle shortens. The purple sphere on the bridge will still be casting its spiral patterns on the water, though the patterns may be smaller, more contained. The white lotus at the base of the oak tree will still be glowing pure and bright, that candle made to burn for many hours, to last through the entire night if necessary. He imagines the village under the care of these lights, the cottages dark now as their inhabitants sleep, the streets empty except perhaps for a late walker making their way home, guided by the lantern lights, comforted by their glow. He imagines the lake in darkness, still and vast, the reflections of the lanterns dancing on its surface, the water holding the light the way it holds the reflections of stars, the way it holds the memory of the sun even in the depth of night. And thinking of these things, imagining the village at peace, the lanterns doing their work while he rests, he feels a deep sense of rightness, of alignment with the way things should be. He has done his part. He has created the lanterns, lit them, placed them. Now they carry on without him, and he can rest, can let go of responsibility for a while, can trust that the light will continue, that the village will be safe, that all will be well until morning comes and he rises to begin again. The candle on his bedside table flickers and then steadies. Its flame has grown smaller, the wax having burned down to about half its original height. The pool of melted wax around the wick glows golden in the candlelight, liquid and moving, a tiny ocean, a miniature lake in which the wick stands like a small island, like the oak tree in the village square, like anything that stands as a center, as a focal point, as a place where light originates and spreads outward. He watches this through half-closed eyes, his gaze soft and unfocused, not really seeing the candle but perceiving it, aware of its presence, of its light, of its gradual consumption of itself in the service of illumination. The candle is like him, he thinks drowsily, giving itself to its purpose, burning steadily, transforming matter into light and warmth, diminishing in one sense but expanding in another, the substance of the wax decreasing while the light it produces travels outward, touches surfaces, enters eyes, affects minds and moods and atmospheres. His breathing has become very slow now, very deep, the rhythm of sleep rather than waking. The gaps between breaths have lengthened, the pauses after exhalation extending into moments of complete stillness, of suspension, where no breath moves in or out, and there is only the deep peace of the body at rest, the body trusting in the autonomic systems that will continue to breathe even when consciousness has surrendered, even when awareness has dimmed and finally extinguished like a candle burning down to nothing. The room around him has become a womb of darkness and soft light, a space that holds him completely, that asks nothing of him, that simply allows him to be exactly as he is, tired and old and content, a man who has lived his life with intention, who has found his purpose and pursued it faithfully, who has given his gifts to the world and can rest now knowing that the giving was received, that the light he made has touched others, that his work matters in the small, quiet way that most work matters, Not with great fanfare or recognition, but with steady presence, with consistent showing up, with the accumulated weight of many small acts of beauty and care. And now finally sleep is here. It has circled and considered and decided to land. The lantern maker can feel it arriving, can feel the thinning of consciousness, the dissolving of the boundary between waking and sleeping, between self and not self, between this world and the world of dreams. He does not resist it. He welcomes it. He opens himself to it the way a flower opens to rain, the way earth opens to seed, the way darkness opens to light and light opens to darkness in the eternal exchange that is existence itself. The candle on his bedside table burns lower, its flame small now but still steady, still faithful to its purpose. And the lantern maker, held in his bed, wrapped in his quilt, breathing the scented air, releases his last hold on wakefulness and allows himself to slide, to drift, to float away on the gentle current that carries all living things eventually into the peaceful waters of sleep, into the place where the day's experiences are sorted and stored, where the body repairs itself, where the mind rests and renews itself, where dreams arise like lanterns in the darkness, illuminating the inner landscape. With their own peculiar light, their own strange and beautiful visions. He sleeps, and sleeping he dreams. And in his dreams he is walking through the village, and all the lanterns are lit, thousands of them, millions of them, more lanterns than he could ever make in a lifetime, and they glow in every color imaginable, and their light spreads out and mingles and creates new colors that have no names, and the village is transformed into something magical, something beyond the ordinary world, something that exists at the intersection of reality and imagination, where all beautiful things are possible, where peace is permanent, where light never fails. A peaceful farewell and drift into deep sleep. In the deep of night, in the hours when the village of Duskfall rests most completely, when even the usual small sounds have faded to silence, the lantern maker sleeps on, his body completely still, his breathing slow and even, his face peaceful as a child's. The candle on his bedside table has burned down to a stub, its flame smaller now but still present, still casting its gentle glow across the room, still performing its duty of keeping the darkness at bay, of providing comfort should he wake. But he does not wake. He is deep in sleep now, in the kind of profound rest that heals and restores, that allows the body to perform its maintenance work, that gives the mind space to process and integrate the experiences of the day. In this deep sleep, there is no sense of time passing, no awareness of the body lying in the bed, no thoughts or worries or plans. There is only the vast, peaceful darkness of true rest, the darkness that is not frightening but nurturing, not empty but full of potential, the darkness from which all things emerge and to which all things eventually return. Outside his cottage, the village continues its quiet existence. The lanterns he placed earlier in the evening still burn, though their candles have burned lower, their flames smaller. The blue lantern in the square casts its calming glow over the stone labyrinth, over the benches where people sat and talked and laughed during the day. The amber lantern hangs from the oak tree, its warm light falling on the roots that have grown here for generations, on the earth that holds the tree and is held by it in turn. The crystal lantern in the library has finally burned out, its tiny candle consumed completely, but the memory of its rainbow lights lingers somehow, as though the walls have absorbed some of its magic, as though the books on the shelves remember the beauty and hold it within their pages. The green lantern at the well continues to burn steadily, its eucalyptus mint scent drifting on the night breeze, its light reflecting in the deep water below, creating a connection between surface and depth, between the visible and the hidden. On the bridge, the purple sphere lantern sways gently in the wind that moves across the lake, and its spiral patterns still dance across the water, though more faintly now, the light having diminished as the candle burns down. The patterns are hypnotic, mesmerizing, and if anyone were there to watch them, they would find their mind quieting, their thoughts slowing, their body relaxing into the rhythm of light and shadow, spiral and flow. The white lotus lantern at the base of the oak tree continues to glow bright and pure, its beeswax candle made to last, to burn through the entire night and into the early morning. This lantern is a beacon, a steady point of reference, a reminder that some lights are meant to last, that some presences are reliable, that in a world of change and uncertainty there are still things that hold steady, that remain constant, that can be counted on to be there when needed. And throughout the village, in the cottages where people sleep, there is peace. The baker dreams of bread rising, of golden crusts and soft interiors, of the satisfaction of feeding her community. The librarian dreams of books, of stories unfolding, of worlds contained within covers, waiting to be opened. The healer dreams of plants growing, of medicines brewing, of hands that soothe pain and bring comfort. The weaver dreams of threads interlacing, of patterns emerging, of cloth that will become clothing, blankets, beauty. Children dream their bright, fantastical dreams, their minds free to wander in impossible landscapes, to fly without wings, to speak with animals, to become heroes of their own stories. Elders dream of memories, of lives fully lived, of loves known and lost and remembered, of the long arc of existence that bends, somehow, toward peace, toward acceptance, toward the understanding that comes only with age and experience. And through all of this, the lake holds the village in its vast, still presence. The water reflects the sky, the stars, the few remaining lantern lights, creating a mirror world, an alternate reality that is the same and different, that reminds anyone who sees it that things are not always what they seem, that surfaces hide depths, that every visible thing has its invisible counterpart, its shadow, its reflection, its mystery. The night deepens, and the quality of darkness changes subtly. The twilight that never fully releases its hold on Duskfall village shifts slightly, becomes a fraction deeper, takes on a quality of blue rather than purple, of indigo rather than violet. This is as dark as it gets here, this soft, gentle darkness that is still penetrated by starlight, by the ambient glow of the eternal dusk, by the lanterns that continue to burn, fewer now, their candles nearly spent, but still present, still offering their light. In his bed, the lantern maker stirs slightly, a small movement that is not quite waking, a brief surfacing toward consciousness before diving back down into the depths of sleep. His hand moves on the quilt, finding a more comfortable position. His head turns slightly on the pillow. A small sigh escapes his lips, a sound of contentment, of deep satisfaction. And then he is still again, settled once more into the profound rest that is the gift of a day well lived, a purpose fulfilled, a life aligned with its own deepest values. The candle on his bedside table flickers, and then, gently, peacefully, it goes out. The flame diminishes to a point, to a spark, to a glow, and then to nothing, and the room is left in darkness, not the absolute darkness of a place where no light exists, but the soft, comfortable darkness of a room at night, where the eye can still make out shapes and shadows, where the darkness itself seems to have texture and depth, seems to be not the absence of light, but a presence in its own right, a blanket that covers and protects, a space that allows rest, that invites surrender. And still the lantern maker sleeps on, undisturbed by the candles extinguishing, his body knowing without being told that the light has done its work, that it is time now for complete darkness, for total rest, for the deep healing that comes in the hours before dawn, when the body and mind release their deepest tensions, their oldest holdings, their most persistent resistance to the flow of life. His dreams have shifted now from the vivid, narrative dreams of early sleep to the strange, abstract experiences of deep sleep, where images arise and dissolve without meaning, where sensations come and go without connection to the waking world, where the mind plays with symbols and associations in ways that make no rational sense, but serve some purpose in the deep architecture of the psyche, in the mysterious work of integration and healing that happens beyond the reach of conscious awareness. Outside, in the village, a few lights begin to appear, not the lanterns, which have mostly burned out now, their candles consumed, their work complete, but the first lights of morning, the candles lit by early risers, the baker beginning her day of bread-making, the healer going out to gather herbs while the dew is still on them, the farmer heading to his fields to begin the day's work. These lights are different from the evening lanterns, more practical, less ceremonial, but still part of the same continuum, the same ongoing commitment to illumination, to pushing back not against darkness, but against forgetting, against despair, against the loss of beauty and hope. But for the lantern maker, morning is still far away. He has hours yet of sleep, hours of rest, hours of this deep, peaceful state that is the body's natural restorative process. And so he sleeps on, his breathing slow and even, his body completely relaxed, his mind at peace, floating in that vast inner ocean that all humans visit each night, that place of mystery and renewal, that necessary darkness that prepares us for the light. The village holds him as he sleeps. The cottage embraces him. The bed supports him. The quilt covers him. The air surrounds him with its gentle movement, its careful balance of oxygen and nitrogen, of all the invisible gases that sustain life without announcing themselves, that work in silence and obscurity to keep the body functioning, to keep the flame of life burning steadily, moment after moment, breath after breath. And in this holding, in this support, in this careful tending by forces both visible and invisible, both conscious and unconscious, both personal and universal, the lantern maker rests. His work is done. His lanterns have been lit and placed. His offerings have been made. His tea has been drunk. His gratitude has been felt and expressed. He has given what he had to give, and now he receives what the night offers: rest, peace, renewal, the promise of another day to come, another opportunity to practice his craft, to offer his gifts, to tend the light that is his responsibility, his joy, his purpose. Time passes, though in sleep time has no meaning. The night deepens and then, imperceptibly, begins to lighten. The stars fade slightly. The quality of darkness shifts again, becoming less blue, more gray, the first hint of the dawn that will eventually come. Though in Duskfall Village dawn is not a dramatic event, but a gentle transition, a subtle shift in the quality of light, a gradual brightening that takes its time, that respects the need for gentleness, for patience, for the slow awakening that allows the body and mind to return to consciousness without shock, without jarring, without the violence of alarm clocks and urgent obligations. But that awakening is still in the future. For now, there is only this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. There is only the lantern maker sleeping in his bed, his face peaceful, his body at rest, his spirit held by the same forces that hold the village, the lake, the earth itself. There is only the quiet that comes in the deep of night, the stillness that allows life to restore itself, the darkness that is not empty but full, not frightening but comforting, not the opposite of light but its necessary complement, its partner in the eternal dance of existence. And in this quiet, in this stillness, in this darkness that is full of peace, the lantern maker dreams his gentle dreams, and the village sleeps around him, and the lake holds its still waters, and the earth turns on its axis in its slow, patient revolution, and the stars shine in the vast darkness of space, and everything is as it should be, as it has always been, as it will always be, a world of beauty and sorrow, of light and shadow, of work and rest, of giving and receiving, of all the endless pairs of opposites that together create the rich tapestry of existence. Sleep now. Rest deeply. Let go of the day's concerns. Allow your body to be held by the bed, by gravity, by the earth itself. Allow your mind to quiet, to release its thoughts, to drift into the peaceful darkness that is sleep's gift. Allow yourself to trust that all is well, that you are safe, that you can rest without fear, without worry, without the need to hold on to anything at all. Breathe slowly, deeply, letting each exhale release a little more tension, a little more holding, a little more resistance. Feel your body growing heavy, sinking into the bed, becoming part of the bed, merging with the space that holds you. Feel your thoughts slowing, spreading out, dissolving like mist in morning light, like ripples on water, like all the transient things that come and go without needing to be held, without needing to be preserved. Let the darkness embrace you. Let the silence fill you. Let the peace that lives at the center of all things rise up and surround you, cradle you, carry you gently into the deep waters of sleep, where healing happens, where renewal takes place, where the soul rests and restores itself for the next day's journey, for the next opportunity to wake and rise and engage once more with the beautiful, challenging, mysterious gift of being alive. The lantern maker sleeps, and you can sleep too. The lanterns have been lit, the ceremonies have been completed, the work has been done. Now is the time for rest. Now is the time for surrender. Now is the time to let go completely, to trust in the darkness, to allow sleep to take you where it will, to carry you through the night and deposit you, renewed and refreshed, on the shore of morning when it comes. But morning is far away. There is only now, only this moment, only this breath. And in this moment, all is peaceful. All is quiet. All is well. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Let go. Rest. Dream. The lanterns watch over the village, their light fading but still present, still keeping vigil through the gentle night. And you are safe here, held here, welcomed here in this place where time moves slowly, where beauty is abundant, where peace is the air itself, the ground beneath your feet, the sky above your head. Sleep now, dear traveler. Sleep deeply, dear soul. Let the lantern maker's work be complete in you. Let his lights guide you into rest. Let his peace become your peace. Let his dreams merge with yours until there is no separation, no boundary, only the vast, gentle ocean of consciousness that holds us all, that carries us all through the night and into the morning, through the darkness and into the light, through the mystery and into the understanding that comes when we finally let go and trust the great turning of the world, the deep wisdom of the body, the eternal presence of the light that never fails, that burns forever in the heart of all things, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be tended, waiting to be allowed to shine. The lanterns glow. The village sleeps. The lake holds its waters. The earth turns. The stars shine. And you are sleeping now, aren't you? Deep and peaceful, held and safe, resting in the gentle arms of night. All is well. All is well. All is well. Sleep.